you have to hit okay. Anyway.
That's it. Just turn me on, turn me up, and turn me loose.
And here we are. Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all.
Everybody in chat, how's it going? All the moderators, thank you for doing what you do, being in here. Glad to see everybody. Y'all, it sucks here. It's like 40 degrees and it's been raining since last night. I hope it's nicer down where you two are.
No, it's doing the same thing here. Been raining since yesterday.
Well, it didn't start raining here till about 3 o'clock this morning. Rained till about 10 and got a little spit or a sprinkle here and there, but I think ours is about done.
Yeah. Anything new? Anything happened this week? Y'all good?
I got a new goat.
Of course you did.
This is from the same woman. This is from the same woman that told me about 2 weeks ago. I'm done with all this crap. I'm getting rid of them. I'm fixing to get rid of all this crap. I ain't got time for it. I've got too much going on. And I was so proud. She went and got rid of a couple of goats. I thought, hey, she ain't going to have so much on her plate. And then yesterday, got me a new goat.
Hang on now. Now, I traded, so I technically didn't acquire another one. I just got a new one. There's a difference.
She's got
it's every 3-4 months with her.
She's got a nosed goat. Neither her but used.
Well.
Oh my God.
So
what you? Now she just told us that JR's sick. So what'd you do to him?
I didn't do nothing. That's why I was running late. I was doctoring him up a little bit this morning. He's laying down. I've been sick, and then he got up sick this morning, so can't get over it. I got a cold sore and everything where my stomach's been upset. I've
been telling Wanda and Abby both. I can't get neither one of them well. I mean, it's ever since January the 1st. They've had some type of horrible plague or illness, and I can't get them healed up. It's like they're just like, hey, let me see what I can get. I'm gonna give it to you. It's like, y'all stay over there at home, and I'm going to stay here at the man cave, and we're going to have the divider line. No, keep that stuff.
They still not feeling better?
Well, Wanda's still running a fever today. She's been running a fever for about a week. She's got type 8. Let me think. Yeah, at this time it's type A flu. She started out like the first, like January the 3rd. She had type B flu and was sick for about 10 days. Well, then she thought her fever broke and she started feeling better like over a weekend. Well, then that Monday, she got sick at work, went back to the doctor and had full-blown COVID. So then she's sick for another 10 days. Well, then she kind of halfway gets over that, sprains her ankle on the ice out here. And in the meantime, Abby comes down with something we thought was a flu, but it wound up being that coronavirus. And so she was sick for a week. And then she gets better for a few days and comes down with type A flu. So she's laid up for another week or so. Well, then by the time Abby gets well, which was the first part about a week ago, Wanda decides, hey, that A flu looks great. Well, give me some of that. So she's got the A flu now. So here we are. Look, this has been like 6 weeks worth of, I don't know if I need to like start a convalescent home or urgent care out of my house. I don't know. It's like, look, would y'all quit licking doorknobs and buggy handles? If you go to the store, don't lick the handles. So, I'm going to get her a bubble. She needs a bubble to wear, just like a big beach ball, walk around.
Bring it to the meet and greet. We can push her around. Eventually, somebody will knock her in one of the lakes.
Yeah, we'll roll her down the lake in that big bubble.
That would be fun. Have you seen that? I know this is so off topic. We got to hurry, but have you seen where them people put them on and they get out there and they let the cows and the goats and everything hit them like at the rodeos where they do that? That's funny. That'd be fun.
Yes.
I'd do it.
Well,
so,
no doubt.
But y'all, no joke. Look, Valentine's Day, Wanda's still of our quarantine. Abby hadn't had a fever. She could go back to school. She went back Wednesday. So I was okay. I'll go pick her up. We had a daddy-daughter day yesterday, and we went around, done some shopping, went here and there, went and got something great to eat, and we carried her mama home a plate, so we got her some Mexican food. But, yeah, that was about my Valentine's. Me and my baby girl got to go shopping. We went on a shopping spree. She got a buggy full of clothes. That was about it. So what'd y'all do?
I did nothing.
That's awesome. Nothing. Cooked, made a big meal, and just kind of hung out here.
Yeah. Jamie worked. I made dinner. Woohoo.
Who says love?
Who says romance is dead? Well, we got to bring Neal out. Here's the thing. Let me go ahead. Neal, there you are. All right. So the reason we have to actually get going this time is because Neal has been on here before. He's done a couple podcasts, not a whole lot, but he just has so much. The last time he was on here, we didn't have a chance to go through not even a third of what he's got. So Neal's back on. I'm going to do my best not to interrupt him too much, and let's just let this thing get going, because Neal can talk anyway. He doesn't need me to prompt him.
Yeah, but I have a hard time hearing and seeing people's questions, and I like to answer their questions. So please interrupt me if they ask questions, because I want to answer the questions that people come up with. That's what I do this for. I don't do this for the money. I don't do this for any reason. But with all I've had going on, I want to share what I'm seeing with people, so people that aren't in a situation like we are can learn more about them. And hopefully I can learn more because other people open up to me and they tell me what they're seeing, and I'm able to compare it with what I'm seeing here.
Right.
And I love to do that because I learned doing that.
Well, in case people missed the first episode that you were on, or they've never seen you before, how about you start with some of the basics about you getting on that property, what state it's in and how you kind of picked up what was happening. And then we can move into some of the stuff you didn't talk about last time.
Okay. One thing I do want to start out with, though, is when I went back and listened, I always go back and listen to what I said, because sometimes my mouth exceeds my brain and my ears don't hear very well. I don't know that I'm the only one that has that problem, but
you're the only one. You're the only one. That is never once
all my problem. So when I went back and listened, there was a couple of things that I either didn't answer or that I answered wrong. So the first thing is, Misty, you asked me about the parents and the adults making toys for the little ones, the babies. I have not seen that here, but if we ever get back to normal, where they start a nursery side again, I will be looking for that more. But I've not seen anything like that on the property so far. The second thing is, Spencer, you asked the first time about, have I ever heard any names being called? When you said that, in my mind, I was thinking human names, like my name, my wife's name. I wasn't thinking about other things. But I actually did hear one time call my dog's name. And what I'll do is I'm going to tell that little event that happened, that interaction, so people can hear it. My wife we've got a Yorkie, and she wants him cleaned up and all a lot of times. So she'll once a month have them come, give them a bath and do stuff like that. And they have like a little UPS fan, but that UPS fan has something in it, either to pump water or to vacuum up stuff that sounds like a jackhammer. It's loud as crap. So when they brought him back, they had backed up. I guess they were calling the next people they were going to. And I took Cookie out to go out to feed the outside dogs, the dogs that stay outside. Of course, since it's one of our son's dogs, they won't let us put it outside with the others. Plus, there's a pit bull out there, and that wouldn't be a good situation. But anyway, they were parked on the pad we made for the kids to park. And when Cookie heard that, he started to run down there, and they were just starting to pull out. And I said, I didn't want him to get hit. So I started yelling his name, and his name is Cookie. I don't know why, but male or female dogs, they're all Yorkies. Everybody wants to name them Cookie. So I yelled his name out real loud, Cookie, Cookie. And he didn't stop. He kept going, and I just knew he was going to get run over. Then all of a sudden, behind where that truck was, I heard in a real deep bass voice, Cookie, real loud. Cookie stopped, threw on his brakes, and then ran over to me. And then after the truck pulled out, ran back over to the dogs. So I have actually heard one calling his name for him to stop. And he stopped for that one. He didn't stop for me, but he stopped for that voice. Then the second thing you started talking about, have I ever heard whistling up and down? Well, I have heard whistling. But when you said whistling, I'm picturing, again, a human whistling. I'm not picturing what happened, the bird call.
Right.
We've actually had bird calls. Well, let me go back just a second. At the pond one time, we had a little baby whistle at us, and it was the sweetest, calmest, most beautiful whistle ever. And it was only 20 yards from us behind some briar bushes. And this was during the nursery time. And my wife said, did you hear that? And I said, yeah. And did it again. She said, did you hear that? I said, yeah, that's the most beautiful whistle I've ever heard. It was calming. It was beautiful. And I said, why don't you whistle back at it? So she whistled back at it. All of a sudden, about 40 yards away, behind a hill, one broke and snapped a branch. And I said, oh, we're in trouble now. She goes, what? I said, it sounds like the mom is either letting them know that we're here and they're safe because they're close by, or they're letting us know we don't need to be fooling around. And she goes, well, if that thing whistles like that all the time, I'll just bring it into the house with us. And I said, oh, no, don't say that. Don't say that. Don't do that. We didn't mean it. And then we went off. But I've heard about 5 or 6 times, I've heard a whistle that sounds like a bird whistle. The only difference is it's not a bird whistle, and it's lasting 10 to 12 seconds long, solid, straight through. But it's the most beautiful call you've ever heard in your life. I've heard it most of the time down at the gifting station, and a couple of times when I'm taking stuff out of the car into the house, because when I do that, they know that I've got something in there for them. And I guess they're letting them know, but it's the most beautiful whistle. And I always go back and say, I wonder if that is the whistle from that little one, because it is so beautiful, such a beautiful whistle, and no birds make that whistle. None that I've ever heard, especially not that length. So I have heard a whistle like that. From
Neal, the whistle you're talking about, is it like a melody? Is it ramp up and down? Is it what is it?
Up and down. It's like a melody, and it sounds like sometimes they actually are imitating 2 or 3 different birds at the same time, but it's definitely not a mockingbird. But
is the volume pretty loud on it?
Yes, the volume is loud.
Okay.
The volume is loud, but it is just an incredibly gorgeous, harmonious, sweet sound. It's
melodic.
It's amazing how beautiful it is.
Yeah.
Also,
a lot better than we can.
Talking about that too, kind of leads me into, and I know I'm getting off subject, but it's kind of, when it gets into my brain, it's got to come out somewhere, and my ears are stopped up, so it's coming out my mouth. I have heard a dog bark from where I know one of them stays one night about 9:30 at night. And y'all tell me if y'all have ever heard this. That dog bark, it barked about 8 times. That dog bark had a deep bass baritone and tenor at the same time. How does that how do they do that? There's no animal or person that I know that can do a bass and a tenor at the same time. And that's what it did over and over again. It had a deep bass baritone and then a tenor at the same time. Have y'all ever heard that?
Yes, and we sometimes when we run it through a spectrum analyzer,
Yeah.
I have counted as many as 11 separate bandwidths within one vocalization of theirs simultaneously.
Okay, so I'm going to go.
How they do it?
I'm going to go deep into it. Do you think there's a possibility because their lung capacity, which I'll get into later, is so big that they have more than one vocal box that it's going through at the same time?
Could be. I don't know, but they when you run a lot of their stuff through a spectrum analyzer, you will sometimes see separate bandwidths from the same vocalization. Now, a lot of that has been attributed to, and we've seen it on calls that we're pretty sure were dogmen. And the dogmen, in fact, that's the way we for sure that we separate out dogman calls from Bigfoot calls, is that they will always have multiple bandwidths. Now,
I've seen booger calls that do have multiple bandwidths, but that's not the run of the mill normal. But the only dogman calls I've seen that make you think it's dogman, they definitely have multiple bandwidths underneath of it going up.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever heard it, Spencer, but Greg, you've heard our recordings that we made up at DeSoto State Park years ago, where the coonhounds get to messing with a booger up there, and he barks back at them.
Mm-hmm.
That particular vocalization very clearly had multiple bandwidths within it, and like I said, one of them was a very, very deep bass, and then like what you would say a baritone or a not tenor. Quite a tenor, but a baritone in it. But he was trying to get some. Well, you heard one of the dogs. He hit one of the dogs. And you heard it yelp and cry. But then there was one that apparently was staying back a safe distance, what it thought was a safe distance, and was continued barking at him. And it was disturbing him because he was going to sneak up into our campsite and do whatever.
Right.
And, but it's about a 40-second audio file that sounds absolutely fantastic. I don't have any way of playing it online right now with this laptop. But anybody that's been to anywhere where I've spoken or whatever has heard it. I play it pretty commonly.
But I just wondered because that was the only time I ever heard that, and it was so weird. And I know it was coming from one animal. It was not. It was perfectly aligned that there's no way it could have been one over the other.
You're from over around Lumpkin County, is that correct? Georgia? Is that where you were hearing this stuff?
No.
Okay, I'm wrong then. What part of the country were you hearing this in?
I tell everybody North Georgia just because I'm trying to hide the location.
Okay,
I'm trying to protect them.
Well, this was
I tell everybody North Georgia.
Yeah, this recording that we got was over there in the Jackson County. Well, I just lost what the Greg, what's that northeast Alabama county up there? I know there's Cherokee County and Jackson County.
You talking about over there around the Soto Park?
Yeah, in that area over there.
Well, crap, damn! I just had a brain flush. Yeah,
I had it in my mind, and I just
I've been there. I don't know the name of the county.
it's over around Mentone, Stevenson area over there.
yeah, that area over in there, right? Which is not too far from the crow as a crow flies from where you're at.
Yeah.
And
what I wanted to do now is kind of cover the setup of how this property is lined up. It's really a beautiful property if you're a Bigfoot. And I never knew that Bigfoot was here. I mean, I never even knew the Bigfoot was real until we came to this location. But we bought this property and it had been abandoned for 8 to 10 years. They redid the house, but everything was grown up, so we had to clear it off. I saw a lot of things that made no sense to any animals I'd seen. But to the northwest, there was 600 acres, and that 600 acres had 3 bottoms that came out of it. Each one had a stream that joined together before it came onto our property. The southeast had a bottom that came in that had a stream in it. The southwest, actually. The southeast had a stream that came in on it, and then all of them gathered together and went out going to the east. So we had 4 different bottoms coming into it, and it was just like a big major funnel because our property was almost all a flood zone. It was really wide and it was all bottom, but it wasn't wet and swampy because the banks of our creek was 8 to 12 foot deep. So it never really flooded. I think they said one time back they had an 80-year flood and it flooded then, but that's the only time since we've been here. And they watched us for 3 to 4 years before they even let us know that they were here. Now on the property, there are no caves, but there are some abandoned structures. They also, I've seen where they made at least one cave in the creek, dug a hole. Now, where that is, I actually believe they were taking kids when they were hunting, little ones, the babies and young ones, and putting them in there because where they were going was into an area that they've got some more food. And so I think they were letting the babies, putting them in there and then coming back and picking them up. There's just the feeling I get. There's no way you can prove it, but that's the feeling I get on it.
Well, what do you mean by that? Can you describe that part, the hole that you're talking about by the creek? You talking about in the side of the creek bank up on top? What?
So the creek bears to the left. So as the waters run, you would think the hole would be on the right because that's where it's going to erode is on the right since the creek's turning to the left. This is on the left and it's about 5 or 6 foot up. And it's really deep. You can't even see into it, but you can see the roots hanging down from the trees and all that were in there. And you could tell it had been used. It had been used a lot. And I'd seen some prints over there in that area, some baby prints and other prints right there. But it was on the other side of the creek and it was high enough up that even if it was raining hard, they would have some time to get out and away from it before it flooded.
You're the third person ever that I've heard say that about the hole carved in the side of a creek bank.
Well, Neal, what you're talking about there, we got the same thing here, and it's where the banks on the side of the river and stuff is real steep straight off, and you can tell where it's eroded, and like you're talking about, it'll just be the roots sticking out. Well, them things will get up there and they'll dig out, or some of it where it's eroded, but they'll crawl up in that because it leaves a shelter. They'll crawl up in the banks of the river and lake. They'll climb up in that crap.
You can. Did you ever go in one or shine a light in there?
I did not.
I've been in one as far as you could go. And what was amazing, there was a place up there where they had a little shelf carved out of the thing, and you could see butt prints and with the hair mashed down into the dirt. and you could see their handprints and all where they had scooped out the dirt.
Right.
And this particular one had a bunch of vines hanging across the mouth of it. You couldn't even see it till you were right up on top of it.
Well,
and the first time we went in there, I went in first, and a friend of ours named Dan Rickey was backing me up with a Winchester Model 70 and 458 Magnum. And I still think it was stupid that we did that, because that 458 would have just made it mad, you know. Yeah. There's no way it would have stopped it. If there'd have been one in there, I wouldn't be here, you know. But it was utterly amazing, though, looking at it and seeing how they built it and all.
Well, where this was, it was before you get to a bridge where it goes under the road. But the way it was built, you could not see it from the road. The only way you could see it is if you go on the other side, one little spot, you could look in and see it. And then when I went to the other side where I walked down the bank some, and I could see how big it actually was and how deep it actually was, and how the trail going up to it was worn, but it wasn't worn by a raccoon or anything small. Something big had been going up in there. And I just was thinking that's a perfect place for them to go and not be seen crossing the road. Mm-hmm. And if there's babies around, to stick them up in there and then them gather them back when they come back from their hunting on that side. Because there's no wild hogs on our side, but there are some wild hogs on the other side. So to me, that made sense. Is that what it is? I have no idea. I'm just assuming because that was during the nursery time when there was more babies here and juveniles here. So that's kind of the layout of the property. Now, like I said, we don't have caves. We don't have a lot of quartz, but they keep bringing us quartz. So I don't know where they're getting it from. They gave us this just a few weeks ago, a quartz rock. It's solid quartz, but they left this for us down at the gifting station. Since hunting season's over, they've started interacting with us a little bit more. But so they do take quartz and gift us with quartz, but I have no idea where they're getting it from. Now, I do know that nearby, on their ridge, when they were building a warehouse, the ridge was nothing but granite. So I don't know if the ridges that are here are granite underneath it also or not. I don't know. I know that granite has a little bit of a power source to it, but this is definitely quartz they're leaving me. But that's the way the property is set up. Now, for the people that didn't hear, basically, I saw a bunch of stuff that no animals could do here. You know, logs over a road, a trail that looked like an elephant had made it, but only with one leg in a straight line. Taking all of our peaches when they get ripe, taking the figs when they get ripe, taking the other fruit when it gets ripe, and it's twisted. It wasn't pulled. So that's all that. It's the stuff in the pond where we had sticks in the pond where it caught on fire and the leeches attracted itself to the burnt side. And every time we would take it out, they'd put them back in. They'd put them in the corners and on both sides. And every time I take them out, leeches were all over it. So I think they were putting them back in as a food source, as a protein source.
Yeah, they were getting them raisins.
I know that's not something I'd want to eat. I want to stay away from those things. But so I saw a lot of stuff. And then as we put a cutout for a Bigfoot in the backyard, 3 or 4 years after we had been here, they whistled in the backyard real loud one night to my wife and hit the house. And I called somebody and they said that, yes, we told them all the other stuff I was saying. They said, yes, you have a Bigfoot. So then I started on the trail that looked like an elephant had been used, and everything crushed on the ground, just smushed and crushed. I took a tree and took two headless nails and put apples on it. The apples on it were gone. Every time I put the apples up there, they would be gone. So then I decided to prove that they definitely were here. I've been looking for deer tracks and stuff all along, but I never saw one there. So they're so good at hiding them. But I started raking the leaves back, and the leaves got to a spongy section, and one stepped in it and left a 16 to 16.5-inch print. So then I knew that that's what it was. So we started interacting with them, doing a lot of things with them. They quit hiding their footprints. They started leaving them out so we could see them, which was really weird. I really think that was a test to see what I would do. Would I go follow them? What would I do? I wanted to learn about them as much as possible. Now, after a while, there wasn't that many deer here. So we started putting mineral blocks out. We started putting supplemental feeding out, put clover out, not to hunt them, but just to watch them, because I loved nature. And the deer started coming. The other animals started coming back. Then all of a sudden, it turned to a nursery site, which was really weird. At the nursery site, there would be 2 to 3 babies come every year. And it would be between the last week of March and the middle of May, they would show up. Now, I do know that 2 of the ones that I saw in March came from the mom that was here. That's the last week of March when I'd see the print there. So it had to be worn a couple of weeks before it, because the male was there at that time, which the male wasn't here all the time. He would come and go. But the baby print, when the mom had the baby here, the male was here the whole time. And he did not want us around the pond area. He didn't want us to be down there at all. And he let us know about it. So then go to present. They clear cut the 600 acres to the north. They clear cut the 150 acres to the south, down to the ground. Now, all we've got is hardwoods. So when it came to the wintertime, they would go to that big section, the 600 acres in the winter, which had some pines and hardwood mixtures. They would go there, and it was a safe zone. Nobody hunted in it. Well, then after people started shooting at them, there's a guy across the way that knew they were there and started shooting at them. They disbanded the nursery. There still is a family group here, but somebody else has started shooting at night with semi-automatic high-powered rifles onto our property. And so they've got to be using night vision of some sort.
You need to end that.
I don't know how to end it. What I do, call the cops and say, hey, they're shooting a Bigfoot on my property, you know?
Well, I mean, you're pretty sure that they're shooting on your land?
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt. They're on top of the hill, and you can hear it shooting down into our bottom.
And I would call them and tell them that and have the cops come out and put an end to that.
Yeah, they're definitely, you can't shoot on somebody's property. I mean, yeah, there ought to be a legal recourse for that.
But how do you prove it? I mean, you record it, you can't tell it. I can tell it where they're shooting at, because I hunt all my life.
The point being, Bigfoot or not, that's a dangerous thing to have happening on your property.
Exactly, yeah.
The other side of that is, if a booger takes it the wrong way, you can be the one that give the answer to.
Let me ask you this. Do you have any idea, maybe a thought on who it may be?
No, I don't. Because I know the guy that owns a property to the north, to the south of us, where they were shooting into my property, but he doesn't hunt or go on the land. So it's got to be somebody on the road on the backside over there to the west, because that area, the people over there aren't as, how do I put this nicely, aren't as ethical as most people. As a matter of fact, when police go on their property, they always have 2 cop cars.
Yeah.
For anything, not one. Yeah. So, in fact, I had a neighbor tell me, don't go on their property. They will shoot at you. And so I'm like, okie dokie. But anyway, so that all started. So there's a lot of things that I learned from it during this time period. We had tons of interactions with them. going back and forth. I wanted to learn as much as I could from them. And what I do is I don't know the scientific method. I'm not like that. I'm just like, I grew up in the country, lived in the country, but my dad said, use common sense and reasonable deduction, to figure things out. He said, there's ways to figure things out. And he said, everybody that tells you there's only one way to do it, there's not. He said, the catfish, and I'm just using the catfish example. He said, when we go eat catfish with our uncle's pond, he doesn't do it like we do it. We catch a catfish, we take pliers and pull it down, and it is a pain in the butt. Or use a knife to go down. He'll take and get one of those big black things. He'll get 1 to 2 pound catfish, get it to a certain temperature boiling, put them in there for 1 minute, pull them out, and it'll just come off on its own. Just like if a person's skin gets a lot of hot water on it, it just peels right off. And that's how he does it every time, so that he can do a whole bunch of them at one time, and it's not that hard. That's how he would do it. But Dad said, when we were skinning a deer, we go all the way down, but you can also use what's called the golf ball method. Go down to the tail, put a golf ball under the skin, tie a rope around it, hook it to a 4-wheeler, go real slow, and it'll just strip it all the way down. So there's more than one way to do things. So the way I would always do it back home is I knew all the animals, what they did, how they did things. So I would look at everything that I would see that looked strange, and I would start knocking out the animals that didn't do it to get down to what could have done it, and then try to see if I could narrow it down to nothing or one. So that's what I started doing here. I started seeing things that made no sense. And that's the reason I said that one trail, the only thing I could figure that would do what I'm seeing is an elephant, but we don't have any wild elephants in Georgia running around, not that I know about, especially if an elephant was running around, it would be on both sides, and this was all just one straight trail. So that's how I did things and figured things out. But I would run tests. I would do all kind of tests at the gifting station. I would put different things down there. And I was young and dumb in the Bigfoot world. I didn't know anything about gifting station or not. At that time, I just thought they were a deer or a raccoon or a bear, which we don't have any bear here, so that was easy. But I thought they were a normal animal, like all the other animals. You put food out, they eat it, then they go away. So I was young and dumb. I tell people all the time, don't do it. I was lucky that we have a good group here, and they've never done anything bad to us. Don't do it, because you never know what type are around you.
Do you know? Hey, pause right there for a second, because you bring up a really good point. Which I don't watch that many Bigfoot shows on YouTube, just because, I know that they're real, and I know, but anyway, I was just watching a show literally, was it last night? Yeah, it was last night. And one show I watched, the person was like, it was very aggressive. The encounter was very aggressive. Branches broke, growled at. Finally, the thing stepped out. I raised a gun at it. Very, very scary, very aggressive.
Right.
And another show was somebody going, oh, yeah, they used to come up to our house all the time, and we would walk outside and give them scraps, and they would stand there and stare at us. And they were very, gentle and loving, the Harry and the Hendersons kind of thing.
Right.
But the point that you're making there, like you, I don't know what the dividing line is. I don't think anybody does. There are no experts on the subject. But sometimes they are not necessarily aggressive, but they very well could be. The point being, even though a lot of your stuff was benign and kind of friendly, not necessarily friendly, but not hostile.
Right.
You should not just take from what Neal is saying that, big feets throughout the whole country are just nice, cuddly forest friends, and everything's going to be hunky-dory and you should go out and give them food and, you know, it probably tried to save that dog from getting run over by the van. What if it was calling the dog trying to get a snack? The dog's name was Cookie, by the way. So I mean,
Excuse me, I gotta sort out a fight.
No.
You just got back here.
Paw duties.
But that's what I always tell people. Don't do it because you don't know what kind of group you're getting. Not only that, but like since I've been here, that original family group moved because they moved the nursery. So they went wherever that was. So some new ones have moved in. Now they're not showing their footprints or hiding everything, but they're still whistling at me. Lately, they've whistled at me. 2 of them have whistled at me. 2 of them have done fake owl calls from the same spot. So I know where they stay because they've done enough to tell me where they stay. So 1:30 in the afternoon, you hear a fake owl call, then you hear another one 30 yards from it, and you know that they're there and it's coming from the ground. You know what it is, you know. But you never know what kind of interaction they've had. Some of these, I was going to ask Kumbo what he thinks. I kind of get the feeling here that the male is the one that determines what they do, or they're kind of the rules. So I kind of get that feeling, but you don't know what that when he was a younger male, if he had some real bad interaction and hates people. You don't know his attitude towards people.
That's true.
So I tell people, don't do it. Now I do a lot of other things, testing them to do things, but so far here, you know, they find ways to let me know that they're out of food, which I don't give them food all the time, but they do stuff like we've got a tripod black deer feeder and it's right by our driveway. When they're out for more than 3 or 4 days, it'll be tipped over. It'll be pushed over on its side. And we've been through some awful bad storms and it never went over. So I know what they're telling me. They're telling me they're out of food, you know. So, but Kumbo, I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I got the feeling that the adult male kind of sets the rules for the family. What's your feeling on that? What you've seen at other places? Can you get a guy?
Based on me being around them a lot and at all times of the night and day, I think the female decides where they're going to go and feed.
Right. I agree.
And I think she sort of runs the show, but the alpha male is the enforcer.
Right.
And
exactly.
That and she keeps track of, you know, where they're going to go feed and stuff.
Right.
I know that when it starts getting dusky dark, just based on the difference in the sounds and stuff, and the tracks that I have found where these sounds have been coming from over the years, I think that she decides, you know, when it's time to start gathering up, when it's time to head out.
Right.
And she will make some kind of a call. It could be a tree knock. It could be a whoop or something. And I think very often it's tree knocks, and probably most commonly in the evening. And then there will be answering knocks from the surrounding area, from the other the dispersed members of that troop or that family unit.
Yeah.
Right.
And somehow then she, and I don't know if she does it through infrasound and we just can't hear it, but somehow she lets them know which direction they're going to head out, where they're going to go. And then they do it. Now, I also know that as they're leaving, that, oh Lord, all right, hang on just a second. I got another squalling kid.
Man down.
Man down.
I do agree 100% with what he's saying though, because the male's not here all the time. The female does decide what goes on here with the little ones and all the others. The female's the decision maker.
Let me point out something that you guys might not realize while you're talking about it, though. For a lot of people, I think a lot of people, whenever they first get into the Bigfoot subject, they think of a booger as like just this big monster that's just roaming through the woods and does whatever it does. And you might stumble on it if you're in the right place at the right time. But what y'all are talking about, you're just having a conversation about this. Look, to anybody that's been around these things, Greg can tell you, there is a pattern. There is a method to the way that these things behave. So like whenever you say, like, for example, you know, well, right at sunset, you might get this one type of call. And then 30 minutes later, you hear knock from over here, knock from over here. And then let's say hypothetically they chased and got a deer. And then you'll hear a whoop or a whistle or another knock. There's a pattern to the way that they behave, which speaks to the intelligence and them living as a family and the methodology that they do a lot of stuff the same way. Like, Greg, how many times did the stuff come up whenever you were first, like, they were first getting on your radar? It come up from the same direction down by that river, right? And it was just like a repetitive, oh, here we go, right at sunset, this thing comes up and it knows I'm here. You know what I'm saying, Greg?
Oh yeah, I know exactly, Spencer. That's the reason, like everybody wants me to talk about the motorcycle incident that I had. You know, that's what freaked me out so bad on it, was because what I tried to explain to people, when these things would leave, 90% of the time or more, when they would leave, they would go toward the river. They would go out through that thicket or through the woods, and they would drop off the mountain and go toward the river. And when that one was upset about that motorcycle revving up, you know, the river's to my back, that thing's in front of me, and I am absolutely petrified that when it goes to leave, it's going to come straight toward me, and I was going to be the first thing that was out of place in them woods. And it's done worked itself into a frenzy, and that's the reason I was in just a full-blown sheer panic, was because this is going to go bad, and only by the grace of the Lord, that thing went the other way, went toward the motorcycle. So, but yeah, they definitely have a pattern that they try to stick to. I mean, the way I look at it is kind of like people. I mean, we got certain things that we do. I mean, we may vary off of what we do day to day, but you still got day to day stuff. Just like not saying they're going to work, but like, you know, the average person like me, I'll get up in the morning. I'm gonna take a shower. I'm gonna grab something to eat. I got to go out and get my car. I'm going to go do work. Now, I may go wherever around within 30-mile radius, but I know within the grand scheme of things, I'm going to target to be back here at least by dark. Well, then I know what I've got to do that evening. So you got daily things that you're going to do just to trudge through life.
And the point I'm making is, like, Neal, right now you're sitting there going, oh, yeah, I've noticed this and this over the past couple years, and you've noticed enough that you formed a pattern in your head that you're verifying with Kumbo. Hey, I see this and this happening, you know, with the males, but the males aren't always here. You guys are talking about patterns. That's way different than like how a lot of people even understand the basics of how Bigfoot behaves. So touching on what you're saying about that, what other patterns have you noticed? Like, you could probably say, well, normally during the day at this time, they do this. Normally this time of year, they do this. Stick to the pattern thing. What other patterns have you seen them have?
Well, it's kind of weird because I saw some patterns at the beginning that changed. Every other time that my wife and I would go to the pond, there'll be a tree knot. There were 3 or 4 huge trees down by the creek. And there would be a tree knock in one of them. We never could figure out which one until later on when I was actually down there looking at a baby print. Then a baby made a knock in the tree, and I knew which one it was. But then as it went on, it was less and less and less. Then when they made it a nursery site, something funny happened. I don't know if it was a new juvenile that was a day watcher or what, because the juveniles, when they have a nursery site, they have a juvenile assigned to every baby, and then they have an extra juvenile. But I knew exactly where the mom stayed, up on top of the ridge. And I'd heard her do owl calls a lot, not on top of the tree, but on top of the ridge where she stays. This one did a tree knock. And then she did a hoot owl, a fake hoot owl call back.
Yep.
Then it did another tree knock. Then she did a hoot owl call back. Then for some reason it did another tree knock. The mom got mad. The mom went, ooh, wah.
Did it have like the whip thing on the end, like the wah?
Yes. Yeah, she was mad. They have never done a tree knock at that pond to us after that. Never.
Huh.
They've never done another tree knock. It's like she put her foot down and said, they're good. They're down there. When they're down there, don't do a tree knock. There's no reason to. They're safe. But I thought that was kind of crazy. But in the wintertime, I do know that the family group would leave our property because it was so open and go to that 600 acres. Which was a safe area, and they'd have pines and mixture of pines and hardwoods. Now, I would see where they would come back at night, but I know that they went there every winter during hunting season because it was a place they could hide at. And our property is just wide open with all the hardwoods, and from those ridges, you can see deep into our woods. So, but I've seen a lot of patterns with a nursery site is totally different. They would, and I knew when they were coming because they would mark every year. They would mark the trails a week to 2 weeks before. They would always use something white to mark the trails. They would also mark danger. Somewhere they found a cache of 1/4-inch, 10-foot long PVC pipes, and they would take them and mark their trails with it so the new ones. The new little ones were able to find it. And one time I saw one that was broke. It was only about 4 foot long in a bush. And I said, what is this? There's no trail up in that tree. And I started looking, and it was pointing towards a hornet's nest that I'd not seen. So it was marking danger too. But every year I knew when they were going to move some of them in because they started remarking the trails, and I never understood the first time why they were doing it. Then I started seeing all these different tracks. There was always a juvenile with a baby, and they kept the same juvenile with the same baby because I would go, they weren't hiding their prints. I could go measure them to make sure that, okay, this print and this print are always the same ones. And they always had an extra juvenile there. Now, I don't know if that was to help the mom or if it was just an extra day watcher. I don't know. But
oh, it's real.
When they first made it a nursery site, and this is something, Kumbo, tell me if you've ever heard anything like this. When they first made it a nursery site, blue jays were everywhere. There were 8 to 10 blue jays. We had never had blue jays before that. We'd had bluebirds. Now, where I grew up, we had blue jays. But the blue jays were all around our house. And we had our windows open a lot of times. You wouldn't hear the blue jays, but as soon as we walk out of the house, those blue jays start going off like a warning system. Don't know if that's what it is or not. But it was really weird because as that first nursery site moved in, so did the blue jays. And I know that there were blue jays there. It wasn't fake calls because I saw some of them. But every time we would walk out, they would start going off. And what's really weird about it is one time I went out there and I waved at the blue jays. They were 70 yards away, at 90 yards away. They shut up when I waved at them. They didn't make another sound. It's like, oh, we're busted. How? That doesn't make any sense to me. But it was crazy because the blue jays showed up then. Mm-hmm. Now, I always wonder, because in certain areas now, I don't hear or see any blue jays anymore. But all of a sudden in certain areas, I'll start hearing blue jay calls around where I know they stay during the day.
Oh, blue jays are extremely intelligent. They're in the crow family, and they're very, very intelligent, and they can be trained easily. If you can, find a little baby blue jay that's fallen out of a nest, and keep him and feed him and raise him. I mean, it's amazing what all they can learn to do.
But what I wonder though,
but what you were saying about them, there's a high probability that that they are. Oh crap! It's locked up again. Can y'all still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. It's high probability that they are working with them. That they've got a symbiotic relationship with them. That if they provide perimeter security and protection, the boogers probably cut them in on some of their food supply, some of their scuppernong, fox grapes, nuts and stuff like that, and acorns and hickory nuts and pecans and stuff like that they find. Of course, the blue jays are smart enough to fend for themselves, but they're always looking for a handout. Like when I used to keep bird feeders out all the time, the blue jays were always coming in there and getting stuff. But as far as I have noticed that I'll go for sometimes weeks at a time and not see a single blue jay around my house. And then one day I'll notice that through a good part of the day, there's blue jays messing around in the barn, the old barn back behind my house. Or they're over there messing what we call the archway. It's where we knocked a hole in a big, thick hedgerow wide enough we can get our heavy equipment through it, the big combines with the 40-foot grain heads and stuff on them through there. And they'll show up in that area, in those two areas. And then lo and behold, that night and over the next few nights, we'll have Bigfoot activity around the house. And, the dogs will see them, and, we'll hear them. Sometimes they'll come up and hit, knock on the side of the house or something like that. But I think that they do work together.
Well, what was weird about it is we were here 3 to 4 years and never during that 3 to 4 years heard a blue jay until they made it a nursery site. But I'm glad you brought that up about the crows. Because early in the morning at the gifting station, a lot of times the day after I put stuff out there, I'll have the dogs outside. Some of them will be barking at them. They always give them away. And there'll be a crow over in a huge tree that's right next to it. And as soon as I walk out, the crow starts going off. And it's not there all the time, but it's usually there. And every time I hear it, I'm like, well, they must be some down there eating, because here they are. This crow's down there standing at overwatch and letting them know that I'm walking out. And here's the dogs out there looking down towards the gifting station barking.
And they'll use crow calls in their vocalizations. I'm talking about Bigfoot will. I've heard them. We hear them. And that's one of the ways we know when they're moving around or, nearby, is we'll hear crow calls in the middle of the night. And crows don't call in the middle of the night.
Right.
Neal, probably about 2 years ago, Troy Allen and I were up at Coombo's farm, and this was like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. And we'd walked outside of Coombo's when he was living in that mobile home up there. We walked outside, and it was the horrid fake owl call from across his field. It sounded like a 1,000-pound hoot owl with laryngitis. Yeah. And we immediately, all three of us started laughing about it, because it was obvious that this was not an owl. So Coombo and Troy got the owl calling back, and they would owl call, and this thing would, it would hoot back a crappy, horrible, super deep hoot. Well, I grew up crow hunting, and the main thing that we called crows in with was a hawk whistle. So I leaned my head back, and now look, this is the middle of the night. It would get quiet, and I could hawk whistle and that thing would try to whistle back, and we was getting it depended on what we did. If we did a hoot owl hoot, it would be a horrible hoot, or I could hawk whistle and we'd get a hawk whistle back. So look, hawks don't whistle in the middle of the night,
Right.
But whatever we would throw at it, that's what we would get back in return, and it did that for 45 minutes.
It's funny you said that, because one night I heard one doing the fake owl call down by the gifting station, and then it was walking along the creek, and every 3 or 4 steps it would make an owl call. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know many owls that walk on the ground by a creek, just hello. I'm hearing you.
The one at Mark Green's at Creepy Mountain, when we were all there and Sandy got out of the truck up top, and you started having the 500-pound owl, and then it switched to like a crow, like right in the middle. It's, they're all over the place. That's not my polka ring thing.
Spencer, and that's the horrible thing. I don't think anybody recorded any of that. And you can't explain to people if they weren't there and heard it. When we're talking about that, it's a horrible impersonation of an owl. You'd have to be there and listen to it. And once you heard it, because people's going to say, well, it was probably an owl. No, you're there and you hear what we're talking about, I don't care who you are. If you've ever been outside and heard an owl, you're going to go, I don't know what the hell that is, but that ain't an owl. Right. So
I'm gonna run something by y'all that I want to know if y'all have ever heard anything like this before. This was an late October night, and there was one that did Ohio howl to the south off the bottom that comes in from the southwest. Did Ohio howl. It came up to behind our gifting station, did another Ohio howl. It just passed the flat area in our place, and all of a sudden, in a rectangular shape, one did 3 tree knocks. One just in the other corner of it did 3 tree knocks. A little one did 3 tree knocks, and it was real light. Then the other one did 3 tree knocks. Then they did 2, each one of them in the same sequence. And then each one the same sequence did 1. And then it went on down and did another Ohio howl. It was some kind of, only way I can describe it, it was like some kind of, something was going on that they were recognizing. So there were 4, and then the one doing the Ohio howl. There were 5 there that night. But it was weird because it was some kind of ceremony. That's the only way I can put it, because they were in a perfect rectangle and they were doing the tree knocks, and it was 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. And then it did one more Ohio howl. I don't know how to describe that, except it had to be some kind of a ceremony.
It was a communication. It had to be a communication of some sorts, at the very least.
Right.
Well, I mean, who's to say there wasn't a booger that came in from outside the group? I mean, maybe the siren call, the Ohio type call.
Right.
Maybe the siren call is more like a locator call, and it knew where your gifting station was because the other boogers in the area had been coming there, and it tracked them that far. And maybe it did the siren call to say, hey, where are y'all at? And maybe that was their way of saying, over here, dummy.
Yeah, but it kept going because it did that right after it was at our place, did the second one, and it did those 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. It did that when it was at our gifting station, so we didn't pass them. And then it went on and did another one. So it would have known where they were and come back.
What time of year did you say it was? October?
It was the end of October. It was a cool night, and it was real late in the night. It was probably 11:45 to 12 o'clock. But it was it was really weird because of the fact that it was definitely some kind of a ceremony. And I don't know. I kept trying to think, is it something to do with mating? Is it something to do with one passing on? I don't have a clue. So I was just seeing if y'all had ever heard anything like that. That was weird.
Not me.
Well, I mean, like here, Neal, most of the time I've heard, when I say hundreds and hundreds of tree knocks, I'm talking about hundreds over the last 26 years. Most of the time here, what we would hear, especially when I was hunting on that one piece of property, most time when they would get stirred up and they would get a tree knock response, it would be really close to me. And what I put together on that was that they came in, the one that came in close to me figured out, hey, he's here. We better let everybody know. 95% of the time, it'd be 3 knocks. It'd be 3. 1, 2, and 3. And then you could give it 15, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and somewhere in the distance, it would reply with 2. It would be the first alert would be 3, and like the answer would be 2. And to me, it made me feel like I said, hey, they're in here hunting, or he's in here hunting. Y'all, here's the warning. And they would be 2 knocks to reply, like, okay, I heard you. And it was that over and over and over for years and years and years. It was that way.
And that's
do they still do it, or did it stop?
Well, a lot of that quit after when I tell people I accidentally made peace with them. They quit doing so much tree knocking because I know this sounds absolutely insane, but that's when I let them know I called their bluff, and they figured out, okay, he knows what we are. He knows that our bullshit, this is us. We aren't fooling him. And it was like, well, the gig's up. And I guess maybe to me, in my thought process was, okay, he's not shot at us. He hadn't tried to hurt us. He's been here all these years. You know, we've snuck around and tried to run him off. He's not leaving. And now we just figured out that he knows that all this bullshit we're doing is us. So he's kind of cool. You know, okay, well, the gig's up. All right, hell, we're going to let him stay. Now, that doesn't mean that I didn't still have some, but it was a very small percentage of all the stuff I'd been through to that point. And that's the reason, too, that you know, Spencer and Misty's been to where I used to hunt. They've been here to my man cave. It's through the woods about just barely over a mile. And I think that's the reason they're here, is because we're not BFF. We're not, you know, tight like that. But to me, it's kind of a mutual respect thing of I still go in that general area where I hunt now is only a quarter of a mile across the river. So I'm still having encounters there a lot. But like these things right here, I try to explain to people, it's kind of like and I've said this a bunch of times, be like you moved in there. You move in, they're probably going to be standoffish for a while. Then you're going to have interactions. They're probably not going to trust you like the way they were with us. It was small, subtle things for the first couple of years. But after we kept coming back and they didn't trust us, they didn't like us being there, every year to year, it got worse and worse and worse, and they got more belligerent. Well, then when I called their bluff, it's like, well, poof, you know, okay, let's calm back down. And honest to God, I believe they knew the sound of my truck. They knew what I looked like, probably what I smelt like. They knew if it was me in the woods. They could tell. They knew me by sight. They knew me by sound and smell. Well, and me being right here so close, when they came through, them things could have probably heard my truck the whole way and heard me cut it off. They knew what direction I went in. Well, they're traveling through. This is a travel corridor, just like what you were talking about. You think about it. If you go to the grocery store and you see you've got a neighbor, you go to the grocery store and you see your neighbor at the grocery store, you're going to recognize him. Hey, Bob, how are you? Oh, man, I'm doing okay. You associate him with other dealings. It doesn't matter where you're at. And I felt like that's what I had here. They figured out, well, there's his truck. There he is. We see him. We smell him. We hear him. You know, we're going to let him know that we know where his place is. He knows where our place is. We're going to let him know that his place is, you know, we know where he's at.
Right.
That's what, all the slapping on my walls, the slapping on my porch post, getting stuff off my porch. My neighbor, I asked him just a month or so back. I pulled out. I said, dude, do y'all not never hear nothing, see nothing? Now, I've been up here all these years. I ain't never seen nothing. And I don't know how. I mean, it's like they're still staying hidden from him. And my brother, I've got a mobile home that's 100 yards down here down the river from me that I own that place and they live there. But it's like they don't interact with my brother and sister-in-law, my neighbor right here, him, his wife, and his 2 sons, his daughter-in-law. They don't mess with them. But now if you come here, odds are you're going to have probably something go on. They'll let me know you're out here. But they don't.
Kind of the same with what you've had. We had a lot of tree knocks to begin with, and this kind of died down. Now they will whistle at me to let me know that they're there. Yeah. They will do fake owl calls because they know I know exactly what it is, and they know I'm not going to go run in there try to see them or shoot at them or anything like that. But the other thing that they started doing in the beginning that they have stopped doing is their smell. In the beginning, they were doing their smell. Okay. When the first time I smelled it, we've got where they pushed up the dirt from making the pond, some hills right there by the pond.
Yeah.
One side had a skunk wet dog smell. I started walking on down, and the other hill had a skunk roadkill smell, 2 distinctly different smells. Then when I was going out, I had the skunk wet dog smell was following me because I could get, as I'm driving down the road, I could get little smells of it. But I mean, I've also had pure skunk smell. We don't have any skunks here. But in the beginning, they did it several times. But in the last year and a half to 2 years, none of them have done it. The last one that did it was a baby that was here that did it. And I don't know if they stopped doing it because they knew we were safe, like the tree knocks, or were they anxious or nervous about it, which set that off. And since they know that we're safe, they quit doing it. I don't know, but they have quit doing that and the tree knocks.
If they do the smell selectively, if they can control the smell selectively, which I completely think that they do.
I do too.
Then if they give you that foul ass oil cloud that you have to go through to get to them whenever they don't want you near them, once they get comfortable with you, it would make sense that they would stop wasting that. And also, a baby might not be able to control itself. I mean, you got to put a human youngin in diapers because they can't control it. So,
and I don't know if y'all agree with this, but when you smell it, that smell is ingrained in your head. So when you smell the next time, you know 100% exactly what it is. It's almost like your brain knows what it is, and it's immediate. But the other thing is, there is no smell that's like that. The characteristics of what that smell does and doesn't do is different than any other smell. A normal smell, you can smell it and catch a glimpse of it, and then you can walk to the subject. Not this smell. You can't.
Yeah, it moves.
Neal, have you ever noticed, and I've tried to explain this to people, and I don't know really how to put it in words, but the whole time I've tried to label it as it's like the air that smells in. It's like it's got a greasy, like a oily, like kind of like a diesel fuel. You can smell roses, and it's a fragranty smell, and it's like a light smell. As far as it's not like oily or greasy, you get around diesel fuel. You know how diesel fuel just lays in the air and it makes the air kind of thick.
That's what I was about to say. It's thick. It's like the air is thick.
You can taste
it.
Yes, sir. You can taste it. 100%.
When I get in it bad, as soon as I can get out of it, I'm spitting. I mean, I got to get that taste out of my mouth. I mean,
Neal, I've had these things. As far as I know, the closest I've ever been to one was me walking out from my stand late one evening, and I'd actually stayed just a little bit later than I should have. But when I was walking out, I came around the bend in the trail or the road out to my truck. And when I made that last corner and I could see the moonlight hitting the moon was already up that evening, but it done got dusky dark. I could still see pretty good. You know, I didn't have to have a light. But when I saw the moon reflecting on my windshield, I'm walking and I hadn't had anything happen. No sound, no noise, no smell, no nothing. And I've got my rifle pointing behind me. I'm holding it right here, pointing behind me. And I'm walking. I'm like, well, okay, there's the truck. Nothing's happening. You know, it's kind of like everything's good. And all of a sudden, and I'm walking. This road is 12 feet wide. It was a 6-foot bush hog in and a 6-foot bush hog out. So it was 12 feet. I'm in the center. And as I'm walking right over my right shoulder, like right here behind me, I had walked right past one of these things, and it had to be either laying down or it had to be crouched low because the sound it wasn't eye level. I'm 6'1". It was below my eyesight, like down. I would say, like, you know, my belly button down. It was a downward angle. The sound hit me.
Right.
And dude, it was like a huff grunt. It was like the thing went kind of like, ugh. And I almost turned inside out. And when it did it, it was like the force of that. It was like it made my clothes flutter. But I never smelt nothing. I'm talking. I walked within 6 foot of this thing and never smelt nothing.
Yeah. Well, whenever I got ground at, I didn't smell anything.
Greg, I had that collision with one when we were both trying to exit the area down there in Mississippi. You know, we ran into each other 2 times, and it never released the. I never.
Whenever you were at the Indian mounds,
you know,
Kumbo, when you were at the Indian mounds and the one come up behind you,
right?
did you smell it?
Nope, did not smell it.
The one that whistled at me, the young one that whistled at me 20 yards from me, there was no smell. And it makes sense. They're a predatory ambush animal for the most part.
I would agree.
Deers, one of their favorite things to eat, I think not only the taste, but because of how much meat they can get at the same time. And they depend on their nose. If they smelled all the time, you know how hard it would be for them to get close enough to get a deer?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely,
that right there tells you that since that's one of their main preys, they can't smell all the time because they would be thin, and you know they're not thin. Well, you don't see the trails that we have here. The trails are nuts. You can put 2 people side by side and raise your hand up and still be 8 foot short of the first limbs that were broke off on their big boy trails. It's crazy. Yeah.
Neal, now those there, do they show themselves very often to you, or are they like the ones here? They're very, very shy about being seen.
Shy. They're shy. I've seen 4. I know 100%. And they always, except for the baby, they always have a barrier between me or enough distance between me that if I could run faster than them, there's no way I could get to them. They would show themselves either on the other side of the creek or 70 yards away. But there's no way that I could get to them. They keep that barrier in between you. And out of the 4 I've seen, I've only seen 2 of the faces. It's almost like they don't want you to see their faces. The little baby was 7 yards from me, and it was looking uphill, never once turned its head and looked at me.
Yeah.
And I think what happened on that is I put some food out at the gifting station. The mom is on top of the hill. I think the baby wanted to go get something at the gifting station. And they were on the trail to cross the creek to go to the gifting station. And I went over to the pond and I intercepted them. And I could smell the smell in the creek. Well, I started going up the hill. I couldn't see anything. So I rolled back and I could smell it in the creek. You know, the creek will make its own wind tunnel type situation. So I kept smelling it. I'll go back up there. I don't see it. Then I go back to the creek, smell it again. Finally, I said, bump it. I get up to the top of the hill, and there it was 7 yards from where I turned to the left, looking at it. And even though I knew the one was there and I was looking for it, for some freaking reason, my brain was trying to tell me this thing was a rabbit. And I knew it wasn't a rabbit. This thing was sitting like a rabbit on its back end. But so I go by trust but verify. So first thing I did is I looked for the tail. There was no tail, but it would have been sitting on it. Then I looked for the ears, and there the ears are on the side of the head. The ears are smaller than what ours usually are and a little bit lower, but they were flatter up against the head, and it was looking uphill. And then when it took off, I knew 100% exactly, okay, that's a baby, you know, because it moved exactly like it had. I'd seen two that I don't call a sighting playing with our dog, and it would move sort of like a chimpanzee when it would move. And I'd seen two playing with our Yorkie. One time our Yorkie was chasing it, but not in a way, it was a playful way. And then the next time the chimpanzee was chasing after our dog in a playful way. So,
Yeah,
but I don't call them sightings because it doesn't meet my parameters that I set up for it.
Mm-hmm.
I set up some really high parameters. I have to see a face or hair and know 100% it couldn't be anything else for me to call it a sighting.
How big do you think?
Shepherd playing with him twice. And I've tried to discourage him.
If it would have stood up, it would have been about 3 foot tall, 2.5 to 3 foot tall. And this was during the nursery time. So, you know, it made sense. I'd seen where they had come up, and even if I put some peanut butter crackers out there, they would take a package of peanut butter cracker, and I think they were feeding the dogs because they'd leave the cracker wrapper right there by the dog pen, and I would see where it was stepping. So I think they were feeding, playing with our dogs all the time.
What colors are the ones that you've seen?
The ones I've seen here, except for the baby, the ones I've seen here were all black, solid black, and we don't have any bear. The baby was a brownish color, but it had some black hairs mixed in. So I can't figure that part out. I don't know if it's going to change to black hair, because I used to have dark hair, and right now I look like Santa Dago Claus. So.
That's their baby hair. This like I have a black German Shepherd. When she was born, she was covered with brown hair. As she got older, her the adult hair started growing in, and all the solid black glossy adult hair started growing in, and before she was even 6 months old, all of the brown hair was gone.
Wow.
There are a lot of animals that do that. My parents, they've got a picture of me. I was born with jet black hair, and then it all fell out eventually, and I had blonde hair. Of course, I got just a little bit of gray left now, but
well, I started out with reddish color, dark reddish color, and then it went to a dark brown, and now it's turned to a bleach blonde, what I have left.
Yeah. Well, I want to comment about something you said earlier, and you sort of answered your question. I don't know if you realized it or not. You were wondering why when they build their shelters, where they dig up under the creek bank, on the outside of the curve rather than the inside.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You're right. Creeks create their own thermal airflows separate from the surrounding area.
Right.
Generally, moving water is cooler than the surrounding area, and then the ambient temperature in the surrounding area. So you've got this thermal runs downstream, following the water, and that air is heavier than the air around it. So when it gets to that curve, it hangs to the outside of the curve, the same as the water, and it provides natural air conditioning to that shelter up underneath that bank.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
Greg can tell you that, him being an HVAC guy.
Oh, yeah.
Only on woodwalkers would you get the NASA engineering scientific diagnosis of why it's on
scientific.
that side.
That ain't scientific. That's somebody spent enough time in the woods to know that, to learn that.
I know about thermals, but I've never heard that before. Thank you. Pearl of wisdom drop there. Thank you.
Plus I've rafted and paddled and everything else on enough to know that.
All right, so I'm about to bounce something else off y'all. Are y'all ready for this?
Sure.
They were always curious about us in the beginning. They would sneak up to our back porch, and if I went to the bathroom, somehow they knew when I was in the bathroom every time. They would come up behind our bathroom, in between rose bushes in the bathroom, and tap on the window. I knew what it was doing. Well, when the dogs were barking, I would always open the door to the bathroom, which goes to the back porch. And
hang on just a second.
One night,
we got a kid yelling. Just a second. I'll be right back.
All right, Neal, hold that thought for a second. I got another question. On the ones that you've seen, really pretty good, because the ones that I've seen really, really good, these things, their hair was absolutely looked like it was groomed. It looked like they had been to a salon. I'm talking about slick, I grew up, we had a bunch of hounds and had a bunch of beagles, and we was feeding like old, like cooking oil and stuff like that. We'd pour it, like cooking oil went out of date, bacon grease, whatever. We'd pour it in the dog food for the dogs. And if you gave those dogs enough oil, their hair would just have a sheen to it, be just glossy, shiny. The ones that I've seen really good, their hair wasn't matted, it wasn't nasty and knotted up. It looked like these things had been combed. I'm talking about slicked off black as ink, but they've all looked well groomed. I mean, what you've seen, what did they look like?
Okay, so one of them I saw was just a face in a window. So I can't tell you about the body. Well, I can tell you about the hair around the face. It was short, and it looked like it was gelled backwards, and it was solid black, but there was nothing wrong with it. The others I'd seen did not have any clumps in it. One of them that I saw an adult was long, but there was I called it because the hair was hanging 3 to 4 inches down from the forearm and the wind was blowing it. That's how I caught that one. Not because it was moving, but the hair was moving. But none of the ones I've seen have been all clumped and gross and like some people say. Now, what causes that? I don't know. Now, our pond, they go in and out of our pond a lot. And at the deepest part, it's like 8 to 8.5 foot deep. They go in there a lot. So do they go in there a lot to take a bath? I don't know, but they do go in it a lot. And it's the deepest water that's right here. Now, there is another lake nearby that's got deeper water too, but this is secluded. Nobody even knows this little pond's here. And they go in and out of it all the time.
I got a theory about that, and I think it could be that they're dirty, but I also think it could be due to their health. If you look at an animal, goats, cows, anything, if they're not healthy, if they're wormy, if they're old, you know what I mean? If they're not eating right. And their body's not healthy, their hair's not healthy either. You take an animal that's, like a show animal that they really groom and deworm and feed them, really expensive feed and stuff like that, their hair and stuff's going to be a lot better than one that somebody takes and throws out in a field that they don't take care of, and they're just out there fending for themselves. I think that could be a lot of why some of them's hair and stuff is the way that it is.
Well, I know
we have to make a short clip out of the past 20 seconds there, because out of like 3.5 years counting now, that's one of the only things that squirrel has ever contributed to the show.
Oh my God.
That was like articulate, concise, intelligent. Okay, carry on.
She holds all that in.
It's seen out of my cousin Vinny.
She holds all that in.
Yeah, I woke up the other night and that was on, and I started laughing because I heard that.
Just because I may look like I'm not paying attention and I'm doing other things, I'm still listening here, y'all.
Yes. She just holds it back for the right moment. She just ain't had the right moment.
Well, it takes her about 1.5 years to build it up to where she's got one full question that actually makes it. That was good, Squirrel.
Well, I'm glad it was when I was on here. That makes me feel better.
Well, I'm glad I informed you of that, and you like that.
I'm gonna get
sorry. Carry on.
all over that.
Yeah, your voodoo doll's fixed to get gouged, son. We'll see Spencer in a minute. He'll be like ducking over.
So what I was gonna talk about, Kumbo, is 2:30 in the morning. I go into the bathroom. I hear the dogs barking. I open the door. I hear one. Now, where I'm sitting on the toilet is my back is to the wall that this thing is behind. So it's probably within 4 to 5 feet of me around the corner of where I was at. This thing took a smell of me, a deep smell, that the volume going in. Now I just sat down, so it didn't make them sick or anything.
Yeah.
I know what you're thinking, Spencer. I can see it right now. You're gonna. Yeah. I knew it. He was going to go off the screen to hide him laughing.
Yeah.
But
he's backstage. I can see him. He's dying.
Yeah, I said, he's about to go off stage and start laughing. The volume that it was taking in, and it breathed in solid for 9 to 12 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing. Now, after I closed the door, I tried to do it myself. I could only do it for about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So even if he was taking in as much as I was, his lung capacity is at least 3 to 4 times ours. Now, what I wonder about that is all the ones I seen pictures of, their nose are real wide at the bottom, that jet shape, real wide at the bottom of the nose. In my head, common sense kind of tells me the reason it's like that is so they can take in more air quicker than we can take in. Any thoughts on that?
Well, they've got tremendous lung volume.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've heard them do the siren call and hold it for like 50 seconds, 50, 55 seconds, multiple times. In fact, we've got a friend that has been on some outings. Greg and Spencer and Squirrel hadn't known him as long as I have, but he can do the siren call for at least 45 seconds, sometimes pretty close to 50. But obviously with the lung capacity like that, you're going to have bigger nostrils and stuff to inhale. But I was just going to say, if he could inhale for 9 seconds, I could certainly give him something to smell for 9 seconds. Give me enough beans and I can overload him.
Hey.
That happened to
well,
me,
I'm glad
though.
I didn't do that because they still like me afterwards. So,
but I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. Now, they used to torment my 2 little brothers terrifically. They would try to get up in the middle of the night to use the restroom, and there would be one outside the bathroom window, tapping on the window or something like that, and crap like that. And they for some reason they never bothered me like that, but he used to give me the creep so many times. I'd go out to feed the dogs or something like that at night, or I'd be coming in from a date. Dadgummit, it's hung up again. And I could feel that they were there. I knew they were there and they were watching me, but they didn't openly harass me as much as they did my 2 little brothers.
Maybe the reason they were right near the roses is because they thought that I smelled like a rose to them or something.
Yeah. There you go.
Hey, Kumbo. Well, why do you think they harassed your brothers more than you?
Probably they got a bigger reaction out of them than me. Because, I grew up with them a lot more than either one of my brothers. I mean, I saw my first one right outside my bedroom window when I was 4.
Yeah.
And I had learned more about them from my grandfather, and my dad had told me more about them and stuff because my middle brother wasn't born until he was born in 1960, and we moved off the farm and moved into town, and around we moved permanently into town in 65, so he wasn't 5, but we'd been staying in town a fair amount before there at my grandparents' house. But and my youngest brother, he wasn't born until 63, I think. And so he would have never been old enough to know anything about them or have any encounters with them. But like I said, I think maybe it was because, and even though we lived in town, we lived on the edge of the town by the river, and there was a huge, travel route through that area. And I don't know if it was the same ones off our farm that had followed us all the way in there. I sort of doubt it. I don't know, but I know that I knew they were there. They just didn't ever bother me. They used to scare the bejeebers out of me having to go down the stairs beside the house, and we had a big retaining wall. All of us kids' bedrooms were in the basement, and having to go around there to the door, the basement door that went into the rec room to get in. I hated that because I always felt like I was being watched. And but I never knew. We never talked about it amongst ourselves till we were adults. And my middle brother got to talking about it one time about how they harassed him and everything. And then my little brother, he said, "Well, they used to do that to me too," And we were all amazed that they had bothered them, that they'd bothered them like that. And,
what's the largest handprint you ever seen?
Handprint?
Uh-huh.
Gosh, I really never measured a handprint, but I'd say probably a foot or so. I mean, big. I mean, I've seen some big. And the largest track I've ever measured was it was a good firm track with no slippage in it. Was 22 inches. I know other people have found them bigger. I have found them up to a little over 23 inches, but they had a little bit of slippage in those.
Yeah. I saw a handprint down by the gifting station that was at least 13 and a half inches long, because I put my foot by it, and it was wider than my foot, and my shoe's 13 and a half inches long, and it was at least as long as my shoe, if not a little bit longer. The fingers were at least 1.5 to 2 times as wide as my fingers.
Yeah, I can believe that. I've got some photos of some that I shot a few years ago when I was still living at my sister's place, and we'd had just had a snow, and there was 2 of them out there around outside and messing around, and I went out there and I found they were walking bipedally, so I found their knuckle mark, their knuckle prints plus their footprints, and I've got a knife that I laid down there beside them for scale, but I've never measured those things to see how big they were. We got the photos and got a good scale to measure them against.
Yeah, that's the reason why I always I use my foot for scale, because I know exactly how long and how wide my shoe is. So if I don't have anything I'm carrying, I just stick my foot beside it, and that way I can tell.
I know when they're knuckle walking, their fists are more than double the width of mine.
Neal, what's the biggest tracks y'all found at your place?
Well, the one that was here, the main male that was here first, was 19 and a half inches long and 10 and a half inches wide. The female was 13 and a half inches long and about 8 inches wide. Then there was a juvenile that was 9 and a half inches long, and it was real narrow, and it only had 4 toes, and it wasn't a deformity. It was just side to side 4 toes. Then the little one that was here was 6 and a half inches long. Now, I have seen a footprint that walked onto my back porch checking on us that had 6 toes. So I'm not sure if that was from inbreeding. The only reason why I think it could very well could be is because of my grandfather's land. He had a bunch of wild dogs there. And of course, we were trying to get rid of the wild dogs because they were attacking people, trying to attack people. And they had deformed feet. They had extra toes like on its leg and too few toes, too many toes. So I don't know that when the male was going
that happens with people.
Maybe he had other female groups that he was tending to, and it just ended up being some inbreeding going on. I don't really know. There's no way to tell.
Yeah. Well, that Tim can correct me if I'm wrong, but that 19-inch, that's going to be probably at least a 10-footer.
But I do have his granddaddy's print, and I will put it to you this way. Spencer, you got a picture of that one, don't you? It's twice as long as my foot.
Hey, well, now would be a good time.
And 12 inches wide.
Wow.
To show the pictures. I don't know if we will have enough time for you to go into a very long detail about every picture, but
we won't.
Do you want to go ahead and talk about some of them? So, because somebody said, "Hey, is Neal documenting this stuff?" Neal already has. He has a book out. Neal has a book out, but in the interest of saving time, we didn't want to do like 200 pictures. He is documenting everything. He does have a lot of pictures and video and other stuff, but Neal, you want to go through this and just show them some of the stuff?
Well, hold on one second.
Go through it.
Hold on one second. Tell us the name of the damn book. You left that out.
I've got actually 2 books that's out. The first one's called Understanding Bigfoot, a guide for the outdoor enthusiast. In it, I put down what you can expect to see when you're hunting, fishing, hiking, and camping. And then at the end, I've got a listing of all of the kind of patterns that they do that's different than other animals. Now, the other one that's out is going to be a 5-part series, and it's about stuff that's happened here, all the interactions. Well, there's no way I can get all of them because there's been so many. But the first book is out, and it's called Bigfoot in Georgia, The Cohabitation Chronicles. And the first one's called When Bigfoot Let Me Know They Were Here. And that's 200 and something pages. And what I did is the ones that I had pictures of or could find them, because I've got so many pictures. I try to take pictures of everything I see as a proof source. So if I had a picture that I could find at that time, I have the picture in the book for people to look at as I'm telling the interaction that we had. And then in that book, I also put in there what I believe we learned from that experience.
Okay, let me ask you one more favor, if you can do it. I don't know, are you on our Facebook, our Woodwalkers Facebook? Are you a member on it?
Yes.
Okay. Look, if you can go on there and do a post about your books, please do that where people can find them. And, please put it on there. That way everybody can see maybe where to get them, what books they are. But do that for us and go on there and do a post on our Facebook page.
Okay. Yeah, they're all both on Amazon, and they're I've got them in the hardback, and I've got the premium color paper in it in paperback. Now the paperback is in color, but it's not the premium paper, but it's still good. And then I've also got it on Kindle, so people can get it on Kindle for inexpensively. Now this last one I did, it had so many pages with the premium paper, it was really expensive, but the paperback was a lot less expensive to buy them, and it is also in color in it. It's just not in as clear color as the premium paper was.
Just so you know, I have both of his books. Now, I've only read half of the first one, the first 3 chapters on the second one, but he does have a lot of pictures. He does go into a ton of detail about what he's taking a picture of, how it happened. what he's doing where he's breaking it down the way that he is probably a really good thing, because he just has so much information about each little thing that he's talking about. You should, if you want to see a book that's well written but very well documented with a lot of information, especially going into the pictures, he did a really good job on that. You should look at all these. But let's show the pictures and we'll make it quick, and if Neal wants to, Neal can come back on for a third time and just go over more of his story. Anyway, here's some of the pictures. Neal, what are we looking at?
Okay, so in the beginning, I started trying to have interactions with them. And there is a picture in there that's on the top of a stump feeder that's got circles on it. I gifted them 8 to 10 marbles. They gifted me back that rock and also another rock that I also have the basketball for by scale, and another one in return for us gifting them those blue marbles. And what is really neat about that is they put that one and another one beside the trail as close to where we gifted the ones. And my wife said, hey, these weren't here before. And she does all the mowing. These weren't here before. Where'd they come from? And I said, I don't know. And I didn't expect a rock to be a gift. But when we did not take them, they moved that one 50 yards up the trail. The trail makes a big U. They moved that one 50 yards up the trail beside their favorite peach tree. And then they moved the other one on the other side of the trail near beside where the kids park, with another one just like it on the left side, to make sure that we saw it and to know that that was a gift in return for the blue marbles. And then I said, well, if this is important enough, that's the other one right there. That's the other one.
That's the other
they
rock.
put originally. And I said, if it's that important to them, I need to accept the gifts. And I took them and put them by our porch. And I think that opened up a lot of communication and trust and respect with them, because they gifted us back and we accepted their gift back. Sort of like a trade.
Yeah.
We have the pictures of the marbles and everything. It's my fault. I got them out of order, but Neal did not specifically tell me what order to put them in. All right.
Okay. Where the two creeks meet, it gets really high really quick, because there's runoff on both of them from either one of them, I think, is from a school that runs down to it. And I'm not sure where the other one comes down from, but they get really high really quick. This rock bed is in the middle of where the two creeks meet. The creeks are surrounding it on each side. And the little things that you see are deer prints where they stepped into these rocks. But this is like 1, 2, 4 prints in a row of where a young Bigfoot, it's not an old one, but I believe it was a young Bigfoot, crossed the creek and is coming from a trail on that side. And where that last one's going to is a trail that comes out on this side. So that's just like a little trackway of where they walked across the rocks.
That's a male that made those tracks.
This is a track that was found next to our trash cans.
Hold on.
How do you know it's a male?
I gotta ask.
Notice the last 3.
Yeah.
You notice it's a very smooth. In fact, if you drew a line through all 4 of those tracks, it would be a smooth line, a smooth curve.
Yeah.
And there would be no back and forth. Matter of fact, look at the last 3. The top 3, they're all straight in a line. There's no offset like a human.
Right.
The males, when they walk, they're 1 foot right in front of the other one. The females leave tracks offset like us, because they have wider hips.
Well, that kind of confirms my thoughts, because I think that was from the one that was 9.5 inches long. And I thought all along that it was a male, because after the male coming and go. Now it's traveling with it. So I was thinking that must have been a male that was traveling that the whole time. This is one, you can just see the outline of where the toes were, where it had gone to check out our trash cans to see if it had anything in it that it wanted. And you can see there's my foot beside it. My foot's 13.5 inches, so you can see how long it is.
They ever get in your trash?
Not that I know of. The only thing they've ever got out of my trash is when they were letting me know they wanted salmon flavored dog food and not chicken flavor. Now this is how smart they are, and I'm convinced that you can't outsmart them. You know, I've tried some stuff, and to me you can't outsmart them. But anyway, I put down during the wintertime, I found out that they like more protein source type. So I added an extra container, and each container would hold a 14-pound bag of dog food with a little space left. I put different things. One container, with a first thing they did is they took a 35-pound bag of dog food off of the back porch, which I talked about earlier. But I found out they like the salmon flavored dog food more. Well, this time when I was putting two containers of it, I went to Walmart. They only had one salmon, so I did a salmon and a chicken. The next morning when I came out, now after I get back to the house, I have a trash can right outside the barn, and I put the trash in it. And at the time, it was totally empty. So even with long arms like I am, I'm 6'4" and got long arms, I couldn't reach the bottom of it. The next morning when I came out, the salmon flavor bag of dog food is sitting by my car right where I step in. If I would have gone to get in it, my foot would have stepped right on top of it. No way I could have missed it. And I said, wait a second, they're sending me a message. So I went down to the gifting station, and sure enough, the salmon flavor dog food was 3/4 gone, and the chicken had one handful taken out of it. They had ate the salmon flavor more than the chicken flavor, and they were letting me know that they wanted salmon flavored dog food. And I went back and stuck my arm in it to see if I could touch the chicken flavor bag. Couldn't touch it. It was crazy, but they were letting me know what they wanted. They wanted the salmon flavor. Now this is a little one that had stepped in the mud, and they don't do this often. And I'm thinking this is probably 6.5 inches, but the big male, the grandfather, I think is in it, was beside it or in the same area that was, because the wild hogs had started rooting around and they had stepped in the mud. But I've only seen this big one's print 3 times. The first time I thought it was a double print from the 19.5 inch long, 10.5 inch wide. I thought it was a double print, and I just didn't believe it was a print that big. Then I saw it this time, and then I saw it another time. But since 2020, I've only seen his print 3 times. Now this is weird, and it's really hard to see, but I think this is possibly the female. And to tell you what you're looking at, the female loved to go into the pond. This was the first step out, and all the leaves got picked up off the foot and left this impression without the leaves. There were a couple that fell after the fact, but that's how wide her foot was compared to mine. That's what I believe it is. But, and I know that the picture only looks flat. It doesn't show how far it went into the ground because it's one-dimensional. It's not 3-dimensional. But that's how wide her foot was compared to my foot. My foot's 5.5 inches wide at the widest point.
But there was some depth to it.
Yes,
right?
There was some depth to it, and that was the first step out of the pond. This is the one that was in the mud near that baby print. And my foot's 13 and a half inches long. And look at the size of the toes, how big the toes are. I mean, it's just, and it had been there for a day or a day and a half because it had been misting and sprinkling. So it's not a clean print like I would love it to be. But I'm well over 300 pounds. I did no indention into the ground. And that was about 1.5 inches to 2 inches deep that I'm stepping next to.
It's big enough. You can see some depth in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, this is what I believe is an X they made to let me know not to go into that area. And that area has the hill that one always snaps the tree limbs behind. And if you look how it's made, there is a piece that's stuck under the bottom holding one of them up, and on the backside, it's holding the other side up. They're amazing how they create and make things and weave them in place to hold them in place. This is another one that they made by the trail. Now, I think this one could have been blocking a deer trail to try to get them to move another direction, because on the right-hand side, right above the BED, was a deer trail, and it's blocking the deer trail and forcing them to go a direction where they had a hide next to the deer trails that they could reach out of and snatch a deer.
Neal?
Yes.
What I have found is that most of the time X's are made to, they're a territorial marker made way more common for other troops of Bigfoot than they are for us. You remember the old country saying, good fences make neighbors?
That's right.
You remember, did you hear what I said, Neal? You've heard the old expression, good fences make good neighbors?
Right.
All right. They're not gonna waste time making territorial markers and stuff unless there's somebody there to see them. So what this indicates to me is that you've got multiple troops. You've got another troop on the other side of that area. And the way those are made, I usually don't pay too much of attention to the X's as far as being directed at me, unless it's across the trail in front of where I come and go. If it's off the side of the trail, then I take that as that trail is sort of a perimeter trail, and that was put there to keep the neighboring troop from getting over into their territory. And that marker could have been put there by the troop that was on your side, or it could have been put there by the troop that is on beyond that in the direction further deeper into the woods.
Or the one that you're looking at, looking at right there, was there for months, because that thing was at the top right-hand side. It had split at the top, and it was over a limb, and it didn't even touch the ground because they had pulled a pine tree out, put it in between the pine tree, and the pine tree was holding it up, or a tree was holding it up against another tree. It was solid in that way.
Right. That's another thing that makes me think that was more put there more to as a territorial marker for another troop rather than for you. Now, if you find one on the trail that you've been using and it's laying down on the ground on there, and it's an X laying on the ground, that's intended for you.
Well, that first one, the first one that I showed, after I went to investigate how that one was made, they put one on the ground on the trail that went to that one.
Then that was it. That was for you. That was that was you. That's just telling you to keep your butt out of there.
Yeah, because the hill that's back behind it is where one would always break a branch. And so I was thinking they didn't want me to go in there because there's one within 15 yards of where that is.
Right.
So they didn't want me going in there.
I've noticed, and I might be wrong on this, but a lot of the markers I see that are X's have been really, really close to like creeks and like obvious physical structure that would make it difficult for you to get from one spot to the other side. And that's why I started thinking like what Kumbo is saying, that maybe it's more of a territorial marker. It's kind of like, hey, here's a creek, here's an X, you stay on that side, we're on this side.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that X is about 25 yards from the creek.
Yeah.
And you can see it from the creek.
Okay. Well, then that's even more evidence, you know, that's probably what that one is there for. But like I said, if you see one that's right there on the trail that you've been using, that's meant for you. It's getting pretty personal at that point.
Right. Spencer, can you find the one that has the marble plate?
Yeah.
With the picture in it? So we started making, after we gifted them marbles, I decided to make a marble plate. And at first we were making smiley faces, which I actually have a smiley face that we made, and then the one they made back to us. That's the one that we made. That's the one that they made back to us. So we made a smiley face, and then they made a smiley face back to us. Then the other one, and I also did different things, which I didn't put a picture in there. I started making different shapes. There's the marbles that I gifted them on the stump feeder. But anyway, I wanted to use the marble plate to communicate with them, and it actually worked. The picture we saw before of the house, one night slammed a throwing rock on the porch, didn't throw it, slammed the porch. And from right there where it stood, it slammed the porch. Then the next time I went to the marble plate, that picture was on the marble plate, and they left a throwing rock on the ground beside it, because when they did that, I slammed the door closed. I think it thought that there's the throwing rock they left, and it almost looks like there's fingerprint impressions, which I don't know how they could ever do that, but it's weird because it does look like fingerprint impressions. They left that beside the stump feeder, and they put the marbles in the shape of the house where they were standing to let me know that it was them that hit the back porch, which I already knew that, but they were just basically telling me that they did it, and they left that for me like a gift back to apologize me for startling me to make me slam the door closed. Weird. I mean, the interactions, the thought it had to take to do that was crazy. When they first took the apples and I saw the print that was 16 to 16 and a half inches, I believe was made by this one. And this was a mom that had twins that was dropped off at the nursery. Now her print there is 17 inches long, and those little babies' prints are 5 inches. But she dropped off twins, and that print and the twins came from is the area that got clear cut. That was by the trail where they took the apples when I saw the 16 to 16 and a half foot print. And that was 2 years later. She left a set of twins at the nursery site.
Now you was talking about that property being clear cut. How long has it been clear cut now?
About a year and a half. Year and 3/4. But when they clear cut it, they didn't leave anything. They clear cut it and left junk on the ground.
Have they got to the point of replanting it yet, or what?
They did not replant it. They're not planning on replanting it. They just wanted to get the money and run. So it's going to take a minimum of 6-7 years for it to grow back any decent amount.
Well, the thing about it, when it grows back, if it grows especially volunteer, you talking about a booger stronghold,
Yes.
you're gonna have it.
Well, I'm hoping that they do come back and they're able to make a nursery. I'm hoping it grows back. Now, that one there is a gift they just gave me. And after I cleaned it off, and I've actually got that one here that I will show you something about that's really neat. When I cleaned it off, it had these scratches on the rock. The sides are grooved. Spencer, can you put my picture where that picture is? So I can show this rock.
I cannot show anything beyond what I have up here right now. I have to show it on my phone.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, the sides are grooved. And at first I thought that it could have been something used like a winch a long time ago to pull things up, but it's not, because at each point, if it was made to pull rope up, which I've never found any old settler sites or old house sites here, hadn't found any of the ceramic cups and stuff like that. I've not even found any arrowheads here, which, a lot of times they say that whenever the Indians were here, this would be a great place for Indians to be, because it's funneling all the stuff here, right? You would think that the Indian tribe would be here. When I was growing up, I found pottery and I found arrowheads. I have not found any pottery or any arrowheads on this property. And that all that section, all those rocks and the creeks, there's not any arrowheads in it.
Hey,
so it makes me wonder if the Indians knew that they were here and they left it alone and didn't settle it.
Yes.
Because they were here. That's how long they had been here.
Neal, my great grandmother, who was either half or full-blooded Cherokee, depending on who you talk to, she grew up in Autauga County, North Carolina, up there in the edge of the mountains. And this was back before they, in a little place now that's called Seven Devils. Now there's ski resorts and crap like that up there. But when she was a girl, the place was totally desolate. In fact, their family had moved up there to escape from the Trail of Tears.
Really?
Anyway, she talked about that just what you were mentioning. Crap! I got a brain fart.
I just couldn't believe that I couldn't find any arrowheads in all those rocks washed in by the creeks.
All right, here's what she told me. She said her family, when they would go hunting, that they had parts of the woods that was theirs that they hunted in, and then there was a big section of the forest in the area that belonged to the Nununui, which is that was their word for Bigfoot. That's what she called them. And if they ever had to go in there for any reason whatsoever into that part of the woods that they recognized as belonging to the Bigfoot, they would get their medicine man and they would have some kind of a ceremony and make a bunch of noise, and so that they knew that they weren't sneaking in there. And then they would go in, do what they had to do, and then get out. But they would if it was to collect an animal that they had shot, then they would always leave a significant part of it there. And they respected their part of the woods, and they would not go into the sections that belonged to the Nununui. So that's why in parts of those woods that you're not going to find pottery and arrowheads and stuff, because the Native Americans and the what they call the ancient ones that were here before them respected that.
Yeah.
Well, not even, well, I guess a little over a mile from my house, you can go down to the lake and walk around and find all kinds of arrowheads. I mean, people's done it for years and years since I've been little. You can still go down there and you find them, where the lake kind of, pulls them back up or whatever. And I guess probably washes some down too. But here at my house, I've had a garden pretty much everywhere there is around my house. I've tilled the ground, dug the ground, everything. And I've never found a piece of pottery or an arrowhead or anything like that here on my property. It's not rocky. Not even 2 miles to Sherry's. She's got quartz and stuff at her house, and she's probably a mile or so from the lake. You can find arrowheads and just all kinds of flint, everything there, but you don't see it here. And
right. That's the reason why I think they've been here for a long time, because if I was a Native American, I would be here to hunt, because all these streams coming together and it's flat and it's all funneling into this one area, and there's nothing, no arrowheads, no pottery, nothing.
Wow.
And not only that, but the house would have been sitting for 8 to 10 years. So somebody knew something was here they didn't want to be around. And some people around must have known about it, because somebody would have bought this property before we bought it if there wasn't something to the property.
Neal, did y'all ever have any contact with the previous owners and ask them about anything?
I tried. He never would call me back and never would take the phone call. As a matter of fact, he let it go back to the bank and ended up having to pay. The next person that bought it didn't cover all the costs, so he ended up having to pay more to cover the rest of the costs that was left over.
He just wanted to get out of there.
He wanted to get out of here. Yep.
How big a piece of property do you have?
It's not that big. That's the thing about it. It's only a little over 30-something acres, but it's just in the perfect spot.
Exactly.
You know, it's not about how much, it's about where it is.
Yeah. Location.
Yep. Exactly.
Ain't it?
And I really think that the reason they did it as a nursery is because I was unknowingly adding food and drawing more food in here, putting the fish in the pond, making the pond there so they could go in it and bathe and catch fish. I think all that added up. Plus they knew I was safe and there was a safe zone here. All that added up that they said, this is the perfect place for a nursery. We got plenty of food. He's putting food out. There's more wildlife here. There's fish here. You know, and looking back on it, it makes sense. What I was doing unknowingly helped make their decision to make it a nursery.
You didn't become aggressive or overly fearful. You weren't hunting. You started paying attention to what they were doing and like trying to communicate with them, which again, going back to what we said earlier, you have to be careful about that. Can go 50-50.
Right.
Can go one way or the other. But in this case, for whatever reason, it very much, at least to me and the way I think about it, what you're saying, it sounds like you were amicable to them and they're like, hey, okay, this guy is not shooting at us and, you know, he's putting out food and helping and everything. And eventually over the years, I don't know if they trust you, but they know that you know that they're there and they're willing to let it go. It's the same thing that what House was talking about with once he showed them, hey, I know, you know, then they're like, okay, well, he knows, we might as well stop all the bullshit or at least cut down on it.
No, they definitely trust us because they've actually warned us of dangers. And they actually know that I don't want the wild hogs here, and no wild hogs will come on the property. Of course, that's also something easy for them to eat. So it may not be to protect me. It may be an easy food source for them.
You think?
Yeah. Actually, this rock, now that you have me this way, can you see? Let's see how I can do this. Can you?
Other way.
There you go.
Can you see the grooves on the sides?
Yeah.
They're grooved. Now, if and they're grooved on all sides. Now, if I take this, put my hand on top of it, and put my fingers here like this, that is a perfect thing to hit something with.
That might be a hard
shape of it.
That might be a hard
fit your fingers, and you can hold it front and back. And it's almost like you can hit something with this point, break a bone open, break a walnut open, maybe even hit a wild hog on the back and automatically break their back and they're done for. I don't know, but it's the shape of that.
There you go.
So it's just weird, but it's grooved on all the sides except at the corners. It's not grooved in on the corners. Like if somebody was using a rope around it to try to make a pulley, it'd be done deeper in the corners, and this isn't. It's only on the sides.
They used rocks as tools against other rocks. I mean, to grind and make stuff flatter,
right?
You know, so it would get a groove in it. I don't know what you call all that kind of stuff.
Look, I've got to say this, Misty. Could you imagine the struggle that Spencer would have had if his booger rock had been the size of that one by the basketball? Could you imagine him trying to load that in my truck?
Do you think I wouldn't have loaded it?
No, you would have went and rented a backhoe or a skid steer or something if you wanted to.
He'd have tried his best, wouldn't he?
Yes.
That
been
is
like
a heavy,
the little engine
heavy
that
rock. I'm telling you.
Hey, well, look, y'all, we got some stuff I've got to cover before we get off here. First of all,
yeah, we've got some
Neal,
questions too.
I was getting ready to say there was a lot of questions. Did you mark them all?
The ones that I've seen, yes.
All right. Well, go ahead and throw them up if you can find them so that he can answer them directly.
I got taters.
Also,
on my
while
hands.
we're waiting on that Dario from Italy, or Dario, however you say that, dude, if you want to see some Bigfoot shit, you come here to me and I will take you to see some of that stuff because I want to ask you questions about traditional Italian recipes. Anyway, carry on.
Okay.
Neal, why do you gift? Just curious. They get my deer corn from September to December. But hold on, Neal. They get your deer corn because it's an easy source of food in the middle of winter. Same reason why pets and everything go missing, especially that time of month. Not just from boogers or that time of year. Not just from boogers, from any predatory animal.
Let me tell you something weird about that. They never ate my deer corn, but they would move the feeder closer to the woods to ambush something coming to get it.
That's great.
They've done that many times. Now, I did put a different type of food in there. It had corn, roasted soybeans, and roasted peanuts. I put a 50-pound bag in there one night. Every bit of it was pulled out the next day. Every roasted soybean and every roasted peanut was gone, but all the corn was thrown about like they took it out with their hand, picked that out, and just chunked it all around. No kidding. And they did not touch the corn. They ate all the roasted soybeans and all the roasted peanuts, and I put it out right before dark, so squirrels didn't do it. And every bit of it was pulled out, and all the peanuts and soybeans were gone.
That is great information. Whenever you were talking earlier about the fruit trees being emptied out overnight, ever since we moved here, I've got one apple and one pear. And we have yet, after almost 5 years of being here, I have yet to get one apple or one pear off of those trees. Because as soon as they get ripe, in one night, they're all gone. Except for there'll be one or two with like wormholes in them, but the rest of them will all be gone.
I had a really good crop one year. I had over 300 on the 3 trees. 300 total. It took 2.5 days, but in 2.5 days, they all were gone. Every one of them.
Misty, I'm sitting here trying to figure out how we're going to get Spencer some roasted soybean underwear before LBL trip.
I bet we can come up with something.
I see the question, is Neal documenting anything? I am. I usually document it by my phone. Yep. I did have a book that I was documenting it in, but so much was going on at the time. I had a book with like 100 pages, and something was happening every day, sometimes twice a day, and the book filled up in no time. So I would take pictures of my phone, and it would have the date and time on it of all the major things. I wouldn't even do tree knocks and stuff like that because it was happening so much that there was no reason to do it in the beginning. It's under Neal Ryder, Ryder, in Amazon. It's Neal, not Neil. It's Nealryder.
Okay. Hold on. Let's see.
Neal needs to come back saying, yeah, well, Neal can come back. Neal is not even, because this has been more like a conversation, he has still not gotten to at least half of his stuff. And I would say the value of talking to someone like him is he's giving you real information of their habits, their methodologies, the way that they move, all that kind of stuff. And you can learn a lot from somebody like this that actually has them actively on their property. And you should look at his books. We don't sell stuff on this channel, but go look at his books. Go look at his books.
I see it says any Indian mounds on your property. No, there's no Indian mounds. As a matter of fact, like we talked about, you can't even find arrowheads or anything like that on the property at all.
Yeah, but the absence of that says something.
Yeah, the absence of that says that they've been here a long time, or because this place is a perfect place. I was a hunter as a kid all the time. I was in the woods all the time. This is where I would be every day hunting. Out there on the other side of the creek where it's flat and all those bottoms come in together. That's where I would be. And the Indians would do the same thing. So by them not, or the Native Americans, however you want to say it, so by there not being anything there, tells you that they were staying out of this area for a reason.
Right. Kumbo, do you have Indian mounds on your property?
No, but there's an area there where we used to find pottery a lot when I was a kid, and whenever they were still plowing back then, and every time when they plowed in that same area, we would find a lot of arrowheads. But I don't have any Indian mounds there on the property that we know of.
Look there, Lene. Thanks, Lene.
Thank you, Lene.
Thank you.
Thank you. It'll go towards the meet and greet. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it.
Now, what was that last question? Can you go back to that last one?
I can. Yes, sir. Give me just a second.
I think they were asking about wild hogs. Have you folks seen increased sightings and evidence of boogers in areas with increased wild hog populations? Actually, across the road, they have wild hogs. Here, where they stay, you won't see a wild hog. So it's actually the opposite. Mm-hmm. The wild hogs will not come here because they're an easy food source for them. They're going to stay away from here where they're staying. So it's actually the opposite of that's what I'm seeing anyway.
You'd be surprised how many eyewitness accounts there are out there of people seeing boogers hunting and killing.
Yeah.
He froze up.
Everything from them running up and just giving them a big old alley-oop bash across the back of the head, or grabbing them by the back legs and slinging them up against a tree, or just pounding them on the ground.
Yeah, that's what I think this rock may be. I think this rock may be something they hold on to and come off the bank or come out of a tree and on the back, and one hit and their back's broke and they're done. It says, Neal, have you seen orbs with these Bigfoots? I've not personally seen an orb. I think I have a picture of one that had a face in it, but my wife has seen an orb on the property. So we have seen orbs.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I pick blue marbles? Just because I heard somewhere through the grapevines they like the color blue, and it appeared to be true because everything that I put out with blue, they seem to take, except for I put a toy out on the gifting station hanging up. It is a rock that has a hole in the middle, and it's a beautiful blue. And I hung it up from the gifting stations to let the little ones play with it. And I can't tell you the number of times that there's no wind, and all of a sudden I'm driving down there and I see that thing spinning like crazy, which tells me something had to make it spin.
You should try putting out chalk and make a couple marks with the chalk. Put the chalk out.
I actually at one time I wanted to get that, that sketch, the thing we used to have where you could use your fingernail on and write stuff. I was going to put that out and make a smiley face on one side of it and see if they would do anything on the other side of it.
The cheap magnetic things, you can get those at the Dollar General, where it's the little pencil with the magnet on the end. It's not even the Etch-a-Sketch, but it's just a pad, and you can just pick up that little pencil and make drawings on it.
Yeah, I haven't done that yet, but I've wanted to do that. And I'll tell you, there's another thing I want to try. We had one of the disco balls in one of our rooms. And when we would have it going, it really wasn't a ball. It really was a little machine, right, that did the lights. When we would do it, they would tap on the windows like they were trying to catch them. So I've told my wife the other day, and I actually ordered one. I ordered one of these little baby sun things to keep the sun off of them. And I said, we're going to take this down there below our house. We're going to set it up, take the battery, hook it up to that so that they can see it going around it, and use the thermal and see if we can get pictures of them coming up to it, looking at it, checking it out. I think that would be so neat to see them coming up to that, because I know they came to the window, kept tapping on it, trying to catch them.
One of the things about the blue color, she'd ask about the blue, and one of the main theories on the blue is if you're out in nature, blue is a very scarce color. I mean, you'll have bluebirds and stuff like that, but in nature, blue is not very prevalent. And it's like these things like things that are odd or different, and they maybe hold that in high regard because it's something that's scarce. So that's kind of what the theory behind the reason they're attracted to blue is.
I got a different theory on that one. I think it's because the energy properties and I can't even say that word either. The signification or whatever of blue is there you go. Yeah, that. It's different than a lot of the other colors. And so I think that may be one reason why they're attracted to the blue.
I see something on here.
Maybe they just like it because,
This would be something, Misty, you can answer this one good. How do you know if they're wild or tame? I guess they're talking about the wild hogs. How do you know if they're wild or tame?
Well, it don't take long to take a tame hog and it go wild.
Right.
Like if you turn one out, they'll start growing tusks and everything again.
That's right.
So
and we had a pure-blooded wild Russian boar, black. The tail's totally different. That, and then there was a domestics wild mix that would go with it. 2 boars at one time. That's the ones that were making all the holes out there in the field. That big one put its print in. And when after I saw the print, the white and black one that was the mix was never seen after 1 week. Now, they were always seen together on my cameras, but I couldn't pattern them. 1 week later, that white and black one was gone after seeing that print. 2 weeks after that, the other one disappeared, and never seen either one of them ever again on the cameras. Yep. So that big one took care of those 2 wild boars. They were both over 300 pounds.
Skidder operator, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Somebody wanted to know if you had salt springs on your property.
No, I don't have any salt springs, but one of the things I do every spring, and to get the deer healthier is the soil in the South is mineral poor. It doesn't have many of the minerals for the deer and other things to actually digest the food properly. Yeah. So I take sorghum peat moss. I put 2 to 4 cubic meters on the ground. And then I take trophy rock, which is 98% salt. And then all the other stuff in it is in deer blood. I take it either crushed or a solid piece put on top. They eat it like crazy. And when I started doing that in the spring, the buck's antlers got 10 to 15% bigger by doing that because the food was digesting better and the mama's babies were healthier because the milk that she had was stronger for them. They gained weight. You would not see a baby's ribs after I started doing that. Before that, you would see the ribs, you'd see they'd be skinny. But after I started doing that, and they would eat that sorghum peat moss like crazy, especially with that stuff getting in it.
Sphagnum peat moss.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't grow it here, but
yeah,
it works like a charm.
Do you got honeysuckle on your place?
Yes, we've got a lot of honeysuckle.
Tell you what, if right now, if you will fertilize, just use some triple 13, and of course don't overdo it. But if you'll fertilize your honeysuckle, and then a week or so, plus or minus a week of Labor Day, if you'll fertilize it again with the ammonium nitrate 3400, if you can still get it, that right there is the biggest thing you can do to increase the rack size on your deer. Believe it or not, I tried it we had a 400-acre piece of our farm that was isolated pretty well, and we did it on that, and I could not believe what just 1 year difference it made in our deer herd.
Patrick Noble, thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. Brother.
And to skidder operators thing, yes, they steal salt blocks.
100%. Yes, sir.
I was going to ask about the mineral blocks versus the salt blocks. I've done the mineral blocks, and they've gone. Yeah. I don't know what the difference is between that and just straight salt blocks, though. Does anybody on here know?
Well, the trophy rocks is a natural mineral that's out in Utah. That's 98% salt, and then the other minerals are the same minerals that are in deer blood. And I found out that out of the stuff I tried, all the different mineral blocks and stuff, that by far attracted them more than anything else.
Have you found any deer carcass on your property with like legs broke or the guts all gone?
Well, you asked me that to begin with, and I said no. But after thinking back on it, I did find one. Now, I hadn't found any bone piles, because that's what I was thinking when you were asking that question. You said bone piles or deer carcasses. The deer carcass I found was on a little 6-point, and it was over near the road. That's the reason why I didn't even think about it. But both hindquarters were gone off of it, and the neck was broke when I saw it.
Okay.
So but I did see that one, but I didn't know if it got hit by a car. But that wouldn't explain the hind carcasses unless the coyotes took it. But the coyotes took it, it would have been drugged, and this was not drugged. This was just laying flat on the ground where it fell. So,
had it been gutted?
By the time I found it, it didn't have any guts, but I don't know if it was too long or not. And remember when I told you about the hole where in the creek? Yes. It was within 15 to 20 yards of that hole.
Okay.
Deer up in trees happens from natural things as well as could be possibly boogers. Just saying. Can happen from floods, tornadoes. A deer get hit by a truck and get flung up into a tree. Mountain lions.
Cougars a lot of time will carry them up in trees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Of course, I've never seen a cougar on any of our cameras. I've seen bobcats, but I've never seen a cougar. But
yeah, bobcats don't normally do it.
No, they're not strong enough to do it.
That's like the guy we had on the last show. His name is escaping me. But anyway, with the deer leg up in the tree, it's like, did that happen because it got hit by a car and got knocked up in there, or was it a storm or something? It can happen. It can be. I wouldn't rule it out, but damn, Kumbo's gone again.
Is that all the questions? Is there any more questions?
Neal, I don't know. You've had 6,000 people make we got up to 175 or 180 live at one point. You're just gonna have to come back on for show number 3, Neal.
Well, I promise you, believe it or not, after the first year and a half, I had over 100 interactions, and I'm talking about major interactions. I'm not talking about tree knocks or calls or whoops. I'm talking about interactions with us. So there is no shortage of it. The only problem I have is my memory space is blown up. So if my ears start to get hair on it, that means I'm losing some of my hearing from all the stuff that they're doing.
Yes, his name is Neal Ryder, Ryder, for the books. Guys, get the books. They're not that expensive. Read those. He goes through a lot of this stuff in great detail. Again, he has agreed to come back on. He'll come back on again. And if there's any major questions that we missed, we'll forward it to him, get it to him. And what do you go by on the Facebook page? Is it Bigfoot Talk?
Bigfoot Talk, BigfootTalk.com. And I also have a website called BigfootTalk.com that's got a lot of information about patterns. Also, how to keep them away from your house if you have some, or if you want to try to interact with them, have some information on that. So it's got a lot of information in that on BigfootTalk.com on the website.
I may have been asleep, missed it, but how long have you been dealing with these things? I mean, what year did this start?
I started noticing it after I cleared the place off, which has been about a year and a half, but they let me know they were here in January of 2020.
2020.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We'll throw, thank you, Sasquatch. We'll throw the link up probably in the description after we get off here for the books, and we'll put it on the Facebook page, and Neal can weigh in on anything. No, there are no books by Kumbo yet, although at some point he might get off his ass and actually produce a book. Kumbo he is a book.
He is the book, yes.
But I'm going to be covering all kinds of stuff with them. The second book is going to be about the gifting site and all the stuff that happened there. The third book is going to be on the social structure and what I learned about their physical features at the nursery site and with the family group. And I know that some travel and migrate. Everything is different. I tell people it's sort of like the geese. The geese flew south and then they go back north. But some of them stayed because there was plenty of good temperature and plenty of food. They didn't have to fly back. So some of them stay where it is because it's a safe zone and there's plenty of food. Others, because of temperature, climate, topography, how much food is there, have to move and migrate and go different places.
Right.
So what I'm seeing here is not everywhere else, but I always want to learn more from everybody else to see what they're seeing, to see if I can pick up on the pattern of that.
Mine don't migrate either. Mine's here year round.
Yeah, ours is here year round.
Ours migrate.
Ours migrate.
Yeah.
Yep. And it can be a little bit of a difference.
We used to have some that stayed all year, but the last several years, they leave in April and they come back in October. They go down. They can go down and hang out down at Greg's. Is where they go.
Yeah.
And I'm dead serious. They actually go to a place that, as a crow flies, is not very far from Greg's place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They go about 40 miles.
Why do y'all think they do that? Why do you think some migrate and some don't? You think it's just because of the weather and they've got the sustainability to stay in an area. They don't have to worry about predators.
Kind of what Neal just summed up. I mean, they don't have to. There's no need for them to go anywhere. They got everything they need right there. They got food. They got shelter. Yeah, I mean, really. I mean, now when I say these don't migrate, I don't think they go very far. Now they may be like right here in my yard nearly for, a week or so, and then it may be a week or two. Won't have anything happen, then they're back. And I think they go and you may have something for a month. You may have 5 or 6 things in a week, and
they're not migrating if they're only gone for 2 weeks.
That's what I'm saying. I think they've just got maybe
I think also hunting pressure has a lot to do with it, because
yes,
a lot of time they're leaving in the winter when people are hunting. If there is a lot of people hunting in an area and there is a safe zone 80 miles away, they're going to go to that safe zone that's got food.
1,000%.
I think hunting pressure causes
for everybody that's watching this show. Some people are talking about goose and some people are talking about booger. It's a hodgepodge at the end right now. I don't know. You can sort through it and make out what you want.
But it's interesting. I've always found it interesting that they start coming back on our farm right about the time bow season opens up down in the national forest. And they're down there until about right after, about the time that turkey season in the forest closes, then they're going back up, they're going back south down to the national forest. So
now
they stay out. They leave the national forest during all the hunting seasons.
Listen to what he said right there very carefully. Say that again, Kumbo, that last part.
I said they leave the national forest during all the hunting seasons that go on there in the forest. Because you got the bow season starts in October, and last season is spring turkey season in April. And like I said, they show up on our farm about the time that bow season opens up, and they leave about the time that turkey season closes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also remember what I was saying earlier. The ones here, when it came to hunting season, when that 600 acres wasn't cut, they would move there to sleep there in the daytime. They would still come back here at night, but they would go into that 600 acres. They would stay here during the daytime in the summer. But when it got to the winter, they were moving to that 600 acres that was safe zone, because it had a mixture of pines and hardwoods. And ours was all hardwoods, and people off the ridges could see down it. They were hunting around it.
I think you'll find them in the refuges a lot more too during hunting season, especially if if you're hunting with dogs and stuff like that, things that can track them. I think they go to because if you're a hunter and during season, you're not supposed to go in refuge. You can, but you're not supposed to take a gun or anything like that. If you go in to get your dogs, you can go in and get your dogs. That's it. But you ain't supposed to take weapons and stuff with you. I think they know that. I think they figure it out just like anything else does, where there's safe zones and whatever is. And I think they go in there and hang out. Hey, listen, I'm telling you, say what you want. I know, because I know where we hunt, and I know when we see signs of them, when we don't.
It's like she took some kind of smart pills before the show.
I'm telling you, I don't know what kind of sickness she's had, but I'm proud of it.
There's something, whatever she bought for her last batch, it had like smart enzymes in it, and she just
I'm sitting here, look, I'm cutting up my vegetables and stuff for supper, so I'm keeping my hands busy, so it's slowing my mind down.
That's what it is. Hey, look, I think it's about time you get vocal.
Hey, I've just been taking it all in, watching and listening. He's got a lot of good stuff.
We had, from the time I was a little boy, way before I was born, actually, we had a permanent troop there on the farm. And when our last big old alpha, whenever he left or passed on or whatever happened to him, the one that came in and replaced him back in the late 90s, early 2000s, that's when they started migrating back to the south. And they'd start migrating to the north away from the national forest. during hunting season. But used to, we had them all year. So I don't know what changed. I don't know why they started our hours on our farm started this migrating, but they did for some reason.
But I see the question about if anybody knows if Bigfoot is immune to snake bites. I don't know if they're immune, but I'm pretty sure their skin is real thick. But I do know that very few people die in the United States from a snake bite. Here we have copperhead, some water moccasins, and we really don't have rattlesnakes. The guy across the street said he killed one, but I've never seen a rattlesnake here. And the copperheads, they don't. I've actually got bit by a copperhead here, and it did not put the venom in me because they can control their venom. They're not like a rattlesnake or a cottonmouth water moccasin. Then they open it up, it comes out. Copperheads don't. They can decide whether to do it or not. And they gave me what's called a dry bite. So if they bit a Bigfoot, I think it would be a dry bite because they're not going to eat it. Now, as big as a Bigfoot is, unless it's a baby, I think even if it got bit, it wouldn't kill it. It may make a sore, it may do that, but it wouldn't kill it because they are if you look at how many people have been killed by a rattlesnake or copperhead in the United States, the number is so small that I don't think Bigfoot would fear what would happen to them if one of them bit them.
Yeah.
First of all, there are multiple accounts, especially from like Louisiana, Florida, anywhere near a swamp, of venomous snakes, most especially water moccasins, being tied in a knot and hung on trees, or like rattlers being twisted and hung on a tree branch. But also going back to what you were saying about the just general overall size, if you lived out in the wild, would you be concerned about like Lyme disease? I mean, who knows? I would ask, are boogers, does anybody see anything or know anything about like, are boogers susceptible to rabies? Does that explain certain boogers being more aggressive and crazy than other ones?
Well, I'd say that my opinion is that boogers are susceptible to rabies because, if horses and cattle are, then, we're talking about the same rough range of body mass. I've seen alpha boogers that I know weighed probably at least 1,600 pounds, and we've had a lot of, 1,600 pound cattle, and we had a Duroc boar one time that weighed nearly 2,100 pounds. And, do they knot up pythons? Don't know that. But anyway, it's just that venom being dissipated in say an eastern diamondback bit them, and we've killed eastern diamondbacks on our farm that were over 8 feet long. And
good Lord.
Yeah. And I mean, and they can strike hard enough to break a grown man's femur.
Yeah.
But if they hit say they hit a 1,000-pound Bigfoot, it's a lot different than hitting a 200-pound man.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
A lot more body mass to dissipate that venom.
Well, and then you would have to go in. That's only approaching it from a purely physical flesh and blood kind of perspective. Are these things something different than flesh and blood? I mean, there's a lot that could go into that.
Well, you also can think about the body, what their body, how it's done. Wild hogs, a full-grown wild hog is not gonna get the venom of it. And it's not because they have any antibodies, it's because their skin is so thick and they have a layer of fat behind it with very few blood vessels. It can bite, but it's going to get trapped in that fat and it will never get to the blood vessels. So it's not that they're immune to it. It's the fact that the way their physiology is, that the poison can't get to where it needs to be to
I get that.
kill a hog.
And especially with something like if you're talking about like a copperhead, you know, the fang length is so much shorter than something like a canebrake or a diamondback or anything like that. Kumbo, did you see Robert Den Donovan's
Yeah, we
comment?
need to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm locked up again, but yeah, we need to do that.
A rabid booger would be pretty disconcerting. Yes, it would. Yeah.
Just so everybody knows, for the last multiple years, I have been depending on HughesNet Internet, which is slightly better than smoke signals. And we just week before last got high-speed fiber there at my house. But where I am, I'm in Colorado Springs right now at my daughter's house. And Colorado Springs has worse internet and worse cell service and everything than what we used to have on our farm before we got the fiber. It's unbelievable. I have to go in a certain part of the house and stand on one leg and twist my ear with one hand and scratch my butt with the other to get a cell signal.
The stars and everything have to align for it to work right.
Yeah. I mean, I thought a modern city like Colorado Springs would have good infrastructure like cell service and internet, but obviously not.
You just need a day that there's no clouds and no wind to blow it away.
Shut up. Holy crap, squirrel put that one back up.
You done made me have to mute my mic to fuss at you. If you don't leave your little fingers off them buttons.
Watch him go. I'm sitting here I was trying to answer Bobby Younce's.
I was trying and he keeps popping it up.
To answer Bobby Younce without me having to type a book, I mean, Spencer's in Virginia, Misty's in Northeast Tennessee, Neal's in Georgia, I'm in Northwest Alabama, and Kumbo's just about 50 miles from me in Northwest Alabama.
Yep.
I agree, Ken.
Anyway, all right, y'all, we have done now almost a 3-hour show. Like I said, Neal is still not covered. Neal has still not covered a lot of stuff. So if he wants to, he said he would. We'll get him back on here. We'll do another show. As far as Robert, Kumbo said that was a good idea about boogers being close to inner cities, and that probably is a good show to cover.
Yeah. I'm the first. I'm not bragging, but I was the first Bigfoot researcher to ever acknowledge what we now call urban Bigfoot.
Kumba, we still have people doing all kinds of YouTube videos exaggerating, exacerbating, and stretching out all the stuff about LBL. And I make a comment every 2 or 3 weeks about Kumbo was the guy that first talked about the whole dogman beast of LBL thing. And people don't listen to that. So good luck telling everybody that you're one of the first on the urban Bigfoot thing.
Hey, can I make one statement? I'm big on common sense and stuff. When you go to a national forest where they've done no logging, no open areas, when I go there, there's very few birds, there's very few deer, there's very few a lot of things because it crowds out the undergrowth. The undergrowth is what attracts the deer and squirrels and there's a lot of stuff. To me, there is less deer in the national parks than in the urban areas where you open up areas to have the browse and the stuff for the deer. So it makes sense that the Bigfoot are going to be here more than in the national parks for the simple fact that it's easier to get the deer. And the Bigfoot's not really as afraid of us for the most part, but there's going to be a lot more food near these open areas than there is in the national parks.
When I did a lot of study, I mean, I've got this one area that I studied for over 30 years and kept very close track of the Bigfoot population in this 300 square mile area. And one of the keys to land that's able to support a lot of wildlife is you've got to have edge covered. You got to have varied cover. And you go to Bankhead National Forest, for instance. On the side towards me is the Sipsey Wilderness area. There are some big deer in there, but nothing like the south part of the area where Greg lives, which they log it and they do prescribed burns. They log off areas in grids, and that creates edge cover, and it creates areas where browse can come back in these logged off areas, and it tremendously increases the quality of the native deer herds as well as the everything else that's in the area. It's a big improvement. So all these people say, "Oh, you can't log off the national forest." BS. That's what I say. You make it better when you do controlled logging. Now, I'm not advocating getting there and cut 1,000 acres at a time. No, what they do is they checkerboard it, and they cut 40-acre sections out, and they'll stagger them. And then they'll cut this 40 acres out, and then let it grow back, and then after so many years they'll cut the section 40-acre square out of the next place. And for folks that don't know how big 40 acres is, it's 440 yards on a side. In other words, it's a quarter mile on a side. And they've been doing that for years down in Bankhead, and it has tremendously helped the place. Where I go, if I go elk hunting in Colorado, which is not too far from here, I mean, I'm in Colorado, but place I elk hunt in the Rio Grande National Forest, the best place to hunt is around where they've got these checkerboard logging operations. And it just so happens one of the best sightings and that I ever investigated was where some hunters, a guide and his hunter, encountered Bigfoot in one of these 40-acre areas that they had logged 2 or 3 years earlier.
And that is a great story.
Yeah, Debbie, I see Debbie has a question. Have you ever felt threatened? Honestly, Debbie, I haven't. As a matter of fact, I have a ton of guns. When we go anywhere on the property, I never carry a gun. I carry a shovel in case I see a snake, and I carry a rake, and of course I've got a little slapstick in case I ever have a coyote or something coming at me. But I've never carried a gun on the property, and I've never felt threatened. I have had the thoughts that I need to leave the area, but even when I had that, I did not feel threatened. I just felt like there was a reason they wanted me to leave.
Yeah. I carry guns a fair amount out on the farm, but it's for shooting wild dogs and armadillos and coyotes. When I was, I guess I was still in my teens or very early 20s, I encountered a female Bigfoot up close, and I was carrying a .22 rifle. And actually, I was stretched out on the ground taking a nap, and on a patch of that green moss that grows on the ground out there, and I woke up and I felt eyeballs on me, and I just cracked one eye open, and about 6 feet away, there's a female standing there just looking at me. And as anybody's heard this story before, she had absolutely the most expressionless looking face I've ever seen. I have no idea if she was mad, glad, happy, sad, whatever. She just stood there and looked at me for a minute or so. And eventually I realized she knew I was awake. And so I just opened my eyes. I cut my eye up there at her a time or two. I was scared to look her right in the eyes. And then she just ambled off on down the side of the ridge. And that is when I felt threatened. I felt like that the alpha was probably there very, very close. And hang on just a second.
It's Kumbo. Kumbo has the polka music on his phone from the earlier question 2 hours ago.
Yeah. Anyway, once she left, I felt like that the alpha was there close and he was not happy. And I actually, I couldn't see him, but I knew he was there. So I just told him, I said, look, you know, and I really didn't know. I was trying to make my mind up if I want to throw myself off the bluff right there. The bluff's about 50, 55 feet right there. But the water underneath it's about 70, 80 feet deep on that, right there on that bluff. And, you know, I can swim good. I wasn't worried about it. I've jumped off of bluffs a lot higher than that. And, but I figured, you know, I'd rather go off the bluff than this was in October and then, you know, then get ripped apart by a bad booger. But, but I decided no. And I just told it, I couldn't see it, but I knew it was there. I just said, look, I'm sorry, I'm in your territory. I've got a gun. I'm gonna, if you'll let me go, I will keep the gun pointed down to the ground and I will leave in the fastest, most expedient route that I can. I'll get out of here and I won't come back. And I got up and I kept the gun pointed to the ground. I kept my head, I kept looking down. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to make eye contact with it. And I got my butt out of those woods, and that was back in the late 70s. And I never returned to that part of the farm until just here a couple of 3 years ago.
Spencer, I've got one more thing to say.
Okay.
When you were talking about patterns, I don't know if they see the same thing, but I just thought about it. All the adults leave from 1 to 3 weeks from the first week of October to the third week of October. Now, I don't know. That's usually when the apples are ripe and other crops. I don't know if they're going for that or if they're going to breed or whatever. Kumbo and Greg, have y'all seen any kind of pattern like that where all the adults leave but the young ones stay there?
We still have a few young ones out on the farm now, but there's no adults. But the adults are gone. But yes, there are a few juvies still hanging around out there. But you know, used to none of them would leave this time of year. But now you're correct. And I do know this, that when they come back, the females are pregnant. And they usually give birth in like November or December.
So, okay, I got a question about that. So you said that there's nothing but the juvies there. So like, are we talking like how old, like able to fend for themselves? Or now the reason I'm asking this is because, listen, Spencer, quit giving me that stupid look before I throw something at you and break my computer. If they're leaving and they're doing it to go out and to mate or whatever, why? I mean, is it because Kumbo? Is it because of like the same reason that they have to worry about like bears and stuff breeding? Like they'll kill the babies. The males, if there's a younger male in the group or whatever, is that, you know, I wonder if that's why, because they have to worry about them killing the babies.
I don't know. And that's a good answer. I mean, I'm not afraid to say I don't know because I don't know. There's nobody, and anybody that says they're an expert on this, on Bigfoot is a liar. I'll tell you.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's all speculation, and that's why we do it and why we ask questions. Nothing's stupid nobody knows.
Well,
I'll tell you this.
Hold on.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I know that the ones that are still there, there's not any of them that are real little. I mean, like the totem size infants, they're gone. The ones that we see out there this time of year are the ones they're mostly about roughly 6 foot to about maybe 7.5 feet tall.
So we're like teenagers.
Right, they're teenagers.
Right.
But they're still, if they're like other animals, though, they would still be of breeding age, even though they're young, I would think, because like goats will breed anywhere from 4 to 6 months old. And you obviously don't want them to catch that young, but they'll still come in and be able to do it.
Right.
Well,
it may be like a wolf pack or a coyote pack or something, is they do not allow the younger ones to breed. And if they do try to breed, they throw them out of the pack.
Right.
And yeah, there's a there was a little movie made about some poor little coyote that he did the wild thing with his mama or one of his sisters, and his daddy and uncles whipped his butt and ran him out of the pack. And I don't remember what the name of it was, but anyway, but it was. Go ahead.
Well, number one, comparing. I mean, it's just me. It's just my opinion. But comparing what boogers do to other animals is probably not the most accurate thing, because you have people that are like, hey, it's what do you call it? Type Ganopithecus blackie, where it's like an ape thing. You have other people going, it's Nephilim. What if it's something in between? But all I'm saying is, in my experience, I don't think it's just an animal. I think it's definitely has an intelligence enough, and that's not including the woo factor, but it's just, it has an intelligence enough. But look at the patterns of what a lot of people are talking about. If you're going to leave the youngins there, but they're big enough to defend themselves, well, okay, they're also probably, if you're talking about, if you correlate that with it being a teenager, well, it's also old enough to reproduce, right? Would you leave them there unsupervised if you were worried about that? There's probably some kind of structure in there where it's like, hey, we're going to go over here for a month. We'll be back. You take care of your younger siblings and don't do anything that we wouldn't do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's more like a human behavior than an animal behavior. And as far as eating the young goes, which does happen in multiple species, you have to be careful about that. If that was the case, how do you explain like the mamas and the dads being very protective of the kids and like being there like, nope, don't get close to the nursery area, no, stay back, it's the time where we just had babies and all that kind of stuff. So all I'm saying is nobody is an expert on this. This is all just speculation. Best we can do is stuff like this, where we're just bouncing the questions off each other and saying, this is what I've seen, and
I think that when they do leave like that, based on some trackways that I've seen, I think they leave. I think most of the juvies that they leave behind, I think they're males. I've seen trackways where you'll have like a grown female, and there will be adolescent females with her, and if there's a male with her, it's a real small one, real small tracks. And but I've got some photographs of a fantastic trackway up in Indiana going across a cornfield that's just been planted. And it's interesting. There were two trackways. There was a trackway of an alpha male, and then some distance away there was a trackway with an adult female along with a juvenile female, along with a even younger female that looked like it was possibly leading along a little real young male. So I don't know.
I've seen trackways mostly with the females and the babies, but anyway, hey, who is it? Skitter,
thank you, brother.
Thank you very much. And he said, has Neal gotten Mindspeak or dreams from them?
Well, let's see. How do I want to answer this? I've had a lot of weird stuff go on. So I think it does happen to some people. I'm not going to say specifically me, but Actually, I can say that I have had some of that. Yes. It's weird.
It is weird when it happens. I've never had it happen to in the way that some people have, but it's almost like, I don't know how it happens to you, but when I had it happen, it's almost like it's a voice in your head, but it's a thought at the same time, not just, I mean, you don't hear it like you do like a regular something else in your head or whatever. It's almost like it's a thought that's being put there, and they're like forcing it to you, I guess.
The main time I had it, we were down at the pond mowing, and as soon as I got down there, the hair stood up on my arms, and I told my wife, this isn't good. The only other time the hair ever stood up on my arms when I was surrounded by a pack of wild dogs, which I got out of that one by killing the leader. Then the hair went down, so I was having to use a lawnmower to go over the edge of the pond, and my wife was mowing the other stuff. I go down by their trail, and in my head, I had the big male. It had a deep, loud voice. It was louder than my thoughts. Say, "You need to leave now." And I started thinking of escape plans. I'm not gonna lie about it. I'll try and go. If I go this way, can I get there? No. If I go this way, and I could feel that he was 7 to 12 yards behind me, and I'm like Kumbo. I don't want to look a big male in the eyes. No way. I don't want it to ruin my time in the woods. I'm not looking at him, And then I started thinking, now if I get to it, what do I have in the side by side? I've got a little knife that's 3 inches long. No, that wouldn't work. And then heard the voice in my head say again, "There's nothing you can do to me. You need to leave now." And then I started thinking, and I just said, "You're right. There is nothing." And this was just in my head. I said, "There is nothing I can do to you, but y'all are welcome here. We're just cleaning up around the pond. We're going to do the edges. And then as soon as we get done, we're leaving." And the hair went, and the hair was on the back of my neck and my arm that time. And then after that, my wife wanted to stay. I got her to leave because I was going to live up to what I told them. And I actually think that had a big deal with the big male. And come to find out a week later, there was a baby print down there on the bank of the creek within 50 yards of where we were. So it did not want me anywhere around because there was a newborn baby there.
What time of the year was that?
That was in first week of May, because usually we mow around the middle of March, and that the first time, and we were behind because a lot of stuff was going on, and that was like the first week of May.
But we haven't even talked about the leaners and the sticks going against the tree and what you and I talked about. Neal, you got to come back for show 3. Everybody in the chat, stop asking all the questions. Hold on 1 minute.
Let me give my take on the Mindspeak. I strongly believe in guardian angels. I saw my guardian angel when I was in college for the first time, and I have had very clear speech come to me on multiple occasions where I needed to do something to protect either myself or a member of my family that turned out to be spot on. It was a word of warning telling me exactly what I needed to do right, immediately. And I have had a couple of times when I was out boogering, and I knew I was in a pretty creepy area, and where I was getting like you said, Neal, the hair, all my hair standing up and crawling and everything. And then all of a sudden I get a very clear words, in my mind saying, "You need to leave now. You need to get these people out of here now." And I didn't take it as coming from the booger. I took it as coming from my guardian angel. And is what I took. Right. And now I've had people with me though that at the same time where I was getting talk like, direction like that, but at the same time they thought that they were getting Mindspeak. So whichever one it is, and this was a one particular instance that stands out, is the other researcher is a very, very good and trustworthy researcher that I respect him a lot. And I was getting the message, you need to get out of here now, move it, get going. And at the same time, he got almost the exact same words. You need to get out of here now, move, go. And but he thought it was mine speaking. I thought it was my guardian angel speaking to me.
The only reason that I think that it was him is for the fact that when I was thinking about getting to the side by side, what kind of weapon did I have that I could use in case I had to, and I was thinking about the knife, is when it said, there's nothing you can do to me. You need to leave now.
Yeah.
When he said that,
yeah,
that kind of made me feel like it was the Bigfoot that I felt like was behind me. Do I know one was behind me? No, I didn't turn and look. Just a feeling. But I hate to answer questions like that because, I have to see things 8 or 9 times before I believe it can happen. And I've never had that happen like that many times. So I hate to answer stuff like that because you can always have one-off wild things happen that don't make sense to you. So, I hate to answer questions like that because for me to say that they definitely can do it, I have to see it 8 or 9 times and I haven't. The only reason I said that because that's what I felt like happened. So I was trying to answer the question honestly. I was trying to avoid it, but
I'm not. I mean, they may do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some of them, maybe not all of them. I don't know. I have no idea.
As soon as you go into the woo section of everything, you get into where people are going to start comparing notes about seeing the boogers disappear, orbs, the electrical devices, with your recorders, your cameras, all that kind of stuff, battery drainage, everything like that. And I do think that if we're going to talk about it publicly, you need to be very clear and concise, and you need to articulate exactly what you're saying. Because like what Kumbo was just talking about, the guardian angel thing. I mean, holy crap, y'all. That's a big difference.
Right.
Is Booger speaking to you? Is it your guardian angel? Do you believe that they're Nephilim? You know what I'm saying? So
right.
Like the flesh and blood thing versus like, do they have any kind of supernatural abilities? You really have to be very clear in what you're saying on that. And also, there are no experts on this. A lot of people have had different experiences. Somebody that sees a booger cross a road is able to say, hey, I saw Bigfoot and Bigfoot is real. Somebody that has been out researching Bigfoot for 5 or 6 years and says, I saw orbs and had different things happen with my devices, and I got mine spoke to, and I got hit by infrasound. That's a whole, you're jumping like 20 steps above somebody that saw a booger cross the road. You know what I'm saying? Right. You've really got to lay out the details of what you're talking about with that. That's not an easy hurdle for a lot of people to get over. A lot of people can look at the Patty film and go, okay, I think Bigfoot is real. But as soon as you start talking about Mindspeak, they're going to be like, okay, this person is just, a whack-a-mole because I just now saw the Patty film and started thinking that Bigfoot might be real, and now they're like, oh, it's Nephilim, and the shofar. We have stuff come up all the time about the shofar on other shows and in comments, and it's like, do you really want to go down that rabbit hole? How much do you know about boogers before you go down that rabbit hole? Because that's a whole different thing. And most of the people, thankfully, don't know exactly what they're talking about on the shofar. They're getting on there and ordering a $60 shofar off of Etsy or whatever the hell it is. And, that's going to do it. That's not the right thing. There's a lot that goes into it with that. You'd be better off going out and getting a drum bull or elk bugle. But
that's the reason why I didn't want to answer it, because it's just one of those weird off the wall things. But you talk about flesh and blood. I have actually had one cut its finger down at the gifting station and droplets of blood be on the gifting station. And I know it was it because it slid its finger down into the bowl that had the cereal in it, and it got some sugar or something in it and burned like crazy, but you could see where the finger slid down and it screamed for over 30 minutes. So they do bleed. I can honestly tell you 100% they do bleed. Either that or something's got a finger that slides down in like I know that they do that was bloody. And nothing I heard makes the sound that I heard.
All right, stop. We're
definitely going to have to do this again, because I've got so much I want to ask too, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to be quiet so you don't say nothing.
Do you want to keep going? Do you want to run the show out? Because I got to let the dogs out and go start on supper.
Hey, look, you ain't telling me nothing. I've been sitting here cutting all my stuff up while we've been doing the show. You got to learn how to multitask.
We're going to have to go. My phone's on about 4%, so we can die at any time.
So we'll have Neal back on. Kumbo will talk about the inner city thing. You know what, Kumbo, if you wanted to do a whole separate show, I would love to hear you go into details about Purgatory in Oklahoma and all of that shit. I don't want to give the name of the actual areas around it. I would love to hear about that. Kumbo can come back on and tell y'all why you should not necessarily be using the shofar, and that goes into the mystical, magical Nephilim side, the woo part of all of this stuff. And Neal, you're holding out on the woo part, but anyway, all right.
See, that's why he won't let you get that started, because he knows we'll be here forever. You get to talking about the woo part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like talking about it because it's not proven to me enough that I can say it actually does happen.
Shit.
Okay. The longer, I'm gonna tell you, I've been in this about 26 years. I started out that I didn't really believe in them, and then I realized that, oh yeah, they're real. And I was in the flesh and blood camp till I started having my own stuff happen that I couldn't explain any other way. It was something way different. And if people label it woo, that's woo, because you can't make sense of it.
I know.
That's one of the best ways to say it. Kumbo, tell your daughter we said thank you for letting her use that spot, and thank you for jumping on the show. Greatly appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Neal,
next weekend, I'll be back home, and we'll get to do this with me being on supposedly high-speed internet. I'm curious to see if it really works.
Neal, thank you for doing this again, y'all. We'll put the link for the books in the description. Check out his books. This is not, us. I mean, we've been doing this for almost 4 years. It's not like we're trying to sell books, but you should go look at his books. He has really good stuff in there. Please go check out his books. We'll put the link in the description. And also he can post stuff on the Facebook page, and y'all can jump on there and interact with him if you have some questions that maybe we didn't get to. There's probably a lot of questions that we didn't get to. Also, literally, in like 5 days, I'm sending off the forms to the Bureau of Land Management for the meet and greet. If you're going to the meet and greet, you have 5 days, maybe 6 tops if I get busy and don't get around to it. 5, 6 days to tell us that you are coming. You can, Squirrel, can you throw up the banner for the email, please?
Yes.
Pretty please. You can email us. You can get on the Facebook page. If you go under the events tab up at the top, you will see the Woodstock 2026. It's at LBL, Land Between the Lakes. If you are going, email somebody, message somebody, get on the Facebook page and tell us that you're going. I have to have an accurate head count dealing with the federal government. Yes, Lori, I added you. But anyway, Neal, thank you very much. Kumbo's got to go take care of dogs or toddlers. Who knows what's going on back there. Squirrel, keep taking whatever medicine you did to make you jump in and ask a bunch of intelligent, articulate questions.
Hey, before I forget it, I about forgot. Tonight later, Untold Radio. I'm supposed to be on Untold Radio with Doug Hodcheck now.
Oh, really? Well, Oddcast podcast is happening in 4 minutes with.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Y'all make sure to go over and jump in with Chad and Erica. What time, Greg?
Misty, if I told you I'd be lying because Rogers gave me 2 different times, so I've got to message him here in a minute and see at whatever time Doug comes on. I think he's going to come on and be on a while, and then bring me in a little later. So I don't really know, but it'll be on the Untold Radio Network.
Well, thank you everyone for having me on. I enjoyed it.
Oh man, glad to have you.
Greg's going big time from the dude that Monster Quest. I mean, holy crap, we can only go up from here. Hey, just on note that I never say,
Eastern.
if you haven't hit the like and subscribe, please do so. Join the Facebook page. Check out everybody that we talk to and that we know, and that's part of the family.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Neal. I agree. A bunch of these people will be at the meet and greet, and you can just talk to them in person. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try to be there.
What do you mean you're going to try?
Well, I'm going to do the best I can.
You better do a little better than that.
Oh, my little window. Let's wait till after the show's over for that.
Well,
all right.
We'll assign Wendell to you as your private security.
Uh-huh.
You'll be in good hands. You're safe. Yeah. All right. Neal, thank you again. Kumbo, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, y'all. See you next week. Take care.
Bye. Big love, y'all.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye. See y'all later.
On the computer, you have to hit okay. Anyway,
just turn me on, turn me up, and turn me loose.
we was